Sr. Take care of your man, Queen said to Chasing Shadow, her tone much gentler. However, it was still somewhat impolite. Don't let him lead my man astray, understood? Understood, Chasing Shadow replied, standing at attention and pinching Yu Ming's ear, forcing a dry laugh. Sister Queen, don't worry, I'll definitely take care of him well tonight. MHM. Queen hummed lightly and took out her phone. Let us add each other as friends so we can communicate more about this in the future. Ah, that sounds great. Chasing Shadow had long wanted to add Queen as a friend, but she had been too intimidated by Queen's strong presence to approach her. Moreover, Queen mentioned sharing experiences. And Chasing Shadow wanted an excellent driver like Su Chun, so it was perfect to learn from Queen about how she trained her drivers. After leaving the airport, a business vehicle specifically sent by the organizing committee picked them up. The group chatted casually and soon arrived at the venue for the second round of the provincial preliminary competition, the Star Tower. Chapter 202. Gradually taking the stage, the Star Tower, built a century ago, still looked as bright and new despite having weathered 100 years. Su Chen looked up at this nearly towering building, and next to him, Yu Ming exclaimed in awe. How impressive. What's wrong? You've never been here before? Su Chen glanced at him. No, Yu Ming shook his head. The location for the provincial preliminary competition varies each year and is determined by a lottery. I've only seen this tower on TV. It's said to have 200 floors and a height of 700 meters. It looked just okay on TV, but standing here, I realize how shallow my perspective was. Su Chen also found the tower quite magnificent. Information online stated that it was built by the former world-class club, Star Group, to commemorate one of the Star God's mechanical daughters. It served as a venue for Star Group's activities, but later dissolved for some unknown reasons, leaving only this landmark building in the South Island of the Hua District. Legend has it that from the top of the Star Tower, on the clearest days, one can see the abandoned space station cruising through the cosmos, and even hear the song of that mechanical daughter. In short, it was a building rich in legend, and also the starting point for this provincial preliminary competition. Behind the Star Tower was a vast training ground where Star Group's drivers once trained. Now, the stands surrounding the training ground were filled with fans from various teams, creating a bustling atmosphere. On the 10th floor of the Star Tower, the entire balcony was opened up, with floor-to-ceiling windows made of tempered glass covering the front, serving as the grandstand for the host, track analysts, and judges, providing a view of the entire starting point of the competition. Good morning, everyone. I'm your familiar friend, Roast Goose Brother. Brother Roast Goose seems to have gained some weight compared to a month ago, likely due to more social engagements that come with his elevated status. His continuous hosting of provincial-level qualifiers clearly shows how popular he is among hosts. Hee, I'm also a familiar face. I'm the track analyst for this competition, MacArthur. Old Mac waved at the camera, his face blooming with a smile like a daisy. Due to the overwhelming number of ticket buyers for this competition and the limited seating capacity, the organizers had to raise ticket prices. I hope the audience can understand this. For the next provincial qualifier, the organizers will prepare a larger venue in advance. Brother Roast Goose expressionlessly read the disclaimer that the organizers required him to announce, along with some optimistic remarks for the audience. He then began introducing the competition according to the procedure. The Starry City track is a compact and fast course, stretching over 200 kilometers, but it features a staggering 872 turns and 52 elevated jumps, with an average of one turn every 230 meters, which tests both the car's performance and the driver's cornering skills. Next to him, MacArthur cheerfully remarked, the entire race will be held on a road course. But the difficulty is not low. Drivers need to have extremely quick reflexes. Otherwise, they can easily crash into the barriers due to mental fatigue during continuous turns. Additionally, the Starry City track has a complex terrain, and the route to the finish line is not uniform. Drivers can use their experience to take shortcuts through jumps, but misjudging the route could lead to wasting time by taking a longer path. Alright, I believe the audience doesn't want the camera focused on us. Brother Roast Goose signaled to the director to switch the camera to the starting line. Now, let's warmly welcome the participants of this provincial qualifier to the starting point. The camera shifted to the starting line. The first to appear was naturally the most prominent team, the Night Voice T3 team with their driver, Night Hoof. However, this time Night Hoof only had one participant, the team leader Ayano. At this moment, Ayano, draped in a bright red cloak, walked hand in hand with Night Hoof towards the starting point. His previously wild golden curls had been trimmed to a buzz cut and dyed a fiery orange-red. His racing uniform was also bright red, clearly indicating that Night Voice aimed to create an image of a king emerging from flames for Ayano. However, the material of the racing suit made him look like a moving red chili pepper under the sunlight. Ayano usually greets the audience with a smile, but today he maintained a tense expression, not glancing sideways, while Night Hoof appeared somewhat awkward, probably due to the bag of chili sauce she was holding. Did Old Mac watch the recent press conference of Night Voice? Brother Roast Goose glanced at the fiery Ayano and instinctively began to comment. Of course. Old Mac nodded and said with a strange expression, it is said that Night Voice has further developed Ayano's talents by stimulating the nerves with chili sauce, enhancing the driver's reflexes, and the effect is said to be better than alcohol. MacArthur's words echoed throughout the audience, and they could be heard on the racecourse as well. With the naked eye, Ayano lowered her head and clenched her fists, likely causing her toes to almost poke a hole through her shoes. I think this is a good change. The commentator chimed in. No matter how much the chili sauce enhances Ayano's performance, it's at least a positive thing in terms of publicity compared to alcohol. The law states that one cannot drink alcohol while driving a vehicle, and Ayano's behavior of drinking and driving a machine girl was already quite controversial. This way, any achievements Ayano gains in the future won't be criticized anymore. Su Chun is on stage. MacArthur straightened up, his gaze intense. The camera focused on Su Chun. He held Xingming's hand as they walked towards the launch point. Xingming held her head high, the badge on her chest shining brightly in the sunlight, representing that she had received the blessing of the Star God twice and won 2 Open Championships. It was unexpected that Su Chun would choose to compete with Xingming this time. MacArthur frowned slightly. He only learned about the chosen machine girls for the competition this morning, and he was puzzled by Su Chen's choice. Indeed, Queen is not suitable for such a fast-paced and compact track with many curves and little breathing room between them. However, Queen has strong explosive performance, which can somewhat compensate for the lack of cornering speed. Although Xingming performs well on curves, her explosive performance is somewhat lacking. It seems that Su Chen hopes to rely on Xingming's cornering performance and peak speed to win this competition. It should be so. The commentator and MacArthur had similar thoughts. Do you think Su Chun and Xingming are strong contenders for the championship in this race? MacArthur paused for a moment and analyzed. My audience knows that I really like Su Chun and Xingming as a duo. However, in this competition, I don't think they have enough advantages. Because in this race, there's Ayano, who claims to have stronger reflexes. There's Yi Guanlan, a popular driver from the Glory Star Group who excels in corners. And there's Su Che, the chief of the Star Crown Club, who has undergone special training and is supported by a mysterious S-Class modifier, completely transformed. This competition is full of experts, and the track conditions are very special. It's hard to say who will ultimately win the championship, since the future is uncertain. The commentator looked at the 10 competitors who were gradually taking the stage and laughed heartily. Let us see the true skill on the track. Chapter 203. The goal is to break the record master, that MacArthur doesn't have faith in us. Listening to the voice on the radio, Xingming pouted. Although Li Yini made her a bit nervous when analyzing the difficulty of the track with her and Su Chun. Now that she was at the venue with so many fans supporting her and Su Chun, she still hoped for recognition and encouragement from others. MacArthur has hosted several track analyses for her and Su Chen's races. How could he not have faith in her? That annoying old man. Xingming felt a little down. Su Chen couldn't help but chuckle at the aggrieved look on Xingming's face. He gently patted her head and comforted her softly. That's just because he doesn't know our secret weapon. When the race starts, they'll see how powerful we are. Meow? Xingming clenched her fists and waved them fiercely, saying fiercely. In today's battle, I will reclaim everything I've lost. Meow. What have you lost? Su Chen asked in confusion. I've lost their respect for me. Xingming replied seriously. Hands on her hips. They've forgotten that day when that machine girl, even with a flat tire, was determined to rush to the finish line. Su Chen responded. Don't pull that on me today. Seeing the seriousness in Su Chen's eyes, Xingming quickly hugged his arm and acted cute. Hee, with Masta so powerful. I don't even need to use that special running style. What a pity, with Masta around, they'll never see my peak form. Meow. Peak form? Su Chen thought to himself. He felt that it looked more like a foolish pose. Su Chun, we finally meet. A very unfamiliar voice came from the nearby parking spot number 4. Su Chun turned to look, seeing a young man with a fair complexion and delicate features. Next to him stood a machine girl with wavy, water blue long hair, reminiscent of a mermaid from a fairy tale. Su Chun had no impression of this pair of competitors. Have we met before? No. The young man laughed heartily. If we had met, I would say it's nice to see you again. He extended his hand amicably. Nice to meet you. I'm Yi Guanlan, a youth training driver from the Glory Star T3 Club. Su Chen knew about Glory Star. It was a top-tier organization in the Huaxia region, on par with Knight's Voice and Peak Future. But this person in front of him was merely a youth training driver? He hadn't officially joined Glory Star yet. So, strictly speaking, he wasn't a professional driver, but was already qualified to participate in provincial qualifiers? That was quite impressive. Su Chen shook hands with Yi Guanlan. Su Chun. Northwolf T2 youth training team. Has Northwolf T2 not promoted you to the official team yet? Yi Guanlan asked directly. Why not come to our Glory Star? After all, you're not a formal driver and haven't signed an agreement. Your skills are more than enough to join a better club. Yi Guanlan's unexpected suggestion left both Su Chun and Xingming stunned. Hey, kid, what do you mean by that? A frustrated voice came from the far-off starting point number 5. belonging to Yu Ming. The professional driver from North Wolf T2 is right beside you. Aren't you a bit disrespectful to poach from us in front of me? Besides, aren't you also in a youth training team? You're not a formal driver either, so why are you already trying to poach for your team? Hee hee. Yi Guanlan smiled lightly. After this competition, I will be a formal driver. Why? Yu Ming raised an eyebrow. Is it really that simple to pass the entry assessment for your team just by running a provincial qualifier? He seemed skeptical of Yi Guanlan's words. When compared strictly, Glory Star was even larger than Knight's Voice, second only to Peak Future. Such a large organization wouldn't have a casual entry assessment. Of course, it's not that simple. Yi Guanlan waved his hand. The group's requirement for me is to break records. Break records? The record for the city race at the Starry Building? Yu Ming was taken aback. Are the current youth training team members this bold? The goal of the competition is no longer just to win the championship, but to break records. Ridiculous. That's right, it's about breaking records. Yi Guanlan said seriously, as if he were discussing something very simple. In this race, I will undoubtedly break records and also win the championship, and the only one among all the competitors who gives me a little bit of pressure is you. He turned to Su Chun, his eyes full of admiration. I see a similar concentrated philosophy in you regarding the modification of Queen, reaching the pinnacle, fully utilizing the strengths of the machine girl, and as for her weaknesses, we will try to compensate or balance them with the driver's skills. For example, my machine girl, Siren, is a machine girl from the Storm Star emblem, with excellent cornering and stability performance. In modifying Siren, I did not follow the mainstream trend of balancing her other performances. Instead, I pushed her cornering performance to the extreme. Facing a track like the Starry Building City Race, which has many and tightly packed corners, Siren can be said to be completely at ease. Su Chen glanced at Siren's performance. A cornering performance of 88 is indeed quite impressive. Moreover, Siren's speed performance is also not bad, reaching 71, while her stability performance is at 81. Her weakest performances are in burst and endurance, at 62 and 59 respectively. However, the Starry Building City Race track is not long, which is just right for a machine girl like Siren. She is a strong opponent. What Su Chen appreciates even more is that it's rare to find a driver who is not reckless and actually shares the same advanced modification philosophy as him, the modifier. However, he wonders if he will compromise due to the arrangements of the big group after officially joining. Hey, what do you mean the only opponent is Su Chen? Yu Ming became even angrier. Where do you place me? No matter what, he is a professional driver for Northern Wolf T2. How can a rookie from the youth training team look down on him? Ridiculous. Mr. Yu Ming, Yi Guanlan still maintained a polite demeanor, but his words made Yu Ming feel a bit unable to hold back. Simply relying on brute force will not lead to technical progress. If you don't believe me, you can try this race. You and Chasing Shadow won't be able to touch the taillights of me and Siren. Yi Guanlan's words contained obvious arrogance and confidence, but the expression and gaze he directed at Yu Ming were very sincere, as if he were telling Yu Ming, 1 + 1 = 2. The sun rises in the east. Yu Ming rolled up his sleeves, gritting his teeth. The next second, however, he was pinched by Chasing Shadow on the ear. Hey, ouch. That hurts. Provoked by Yi Guanlan, Chasing Shadow was also indignant. However, compared to Yu Ming's bullheaded demeanor, she appeared more composed. Anyone can talk big. She snorted coldly, her sharp gaze locking onto Siren and Yi Guanlan. With such big talk, just don't pull a muscle during the race. Chapter 204. Do you know that person? In response to Chasing Shadow's retort, Yi Guanlan merely smiled calmly, not caring at all. Perhaps today's match would have been an exciting battle without his presence, but now that he was here, it would be an absolute domination. His confidence stemmed not only from his own skills and the performance of his vehicle, but also from the fact that he had run the urban track of the Star Building thousands of times in the club's simulation room. For him, today's competition was no different from going home. However, Yi Guanlan wouldn't share this with the other competitors. He wasn't one to boast. If anyone thought he was showing off or arrogant, they were quite mistaken. He simply spoke the truth. The camera panned over, and the 9 competitors had each arrived at their starting positions. In the preparation room, Su Che bowed deeply to the middle-aged man and the elderly gentleman with graying hair. Master James, Teacher Kino, I'll take Feng He over now. Go ahead. Good luck, Kino said, patting Su Che on the shoulder. A hint of a smile appeared on his usually gloomy face. You're trained by the Golden Razor, so be confident. I saw in the news that you weren't exactly shy. Su Che blushed at this remark. That was because he looked too childlike. And to avoid being underestimated by others, he had to wear a stern expression to appear formidable. However, after participating in several public competitions, he realized it was unnecessary. Anyone who made it to a stage like the city championship or provincial qualifiers wouldn't underestimate him based on his appearance. So now, he was much more relaxed. Still, he had gotten used to it, and sometimes it was hard to switch back to a neutral expression. All right, stop teasing him, James said, looking seriously at Su Che. Feng He has been upgraded to an A-class machine. The previously solidified modification core was my proud work. And now the modification core with the adjustable wing installed on Feng He is the pro version that I recently developed. I hope you can fully utilize their performance in this competition. Although Su Chun had only provided the adjustable wing modification core for research without giving any explicit technical guidance, he had still gained plenty of insights by analyzing it frame by frame. He had already created an adjustable wing modification core that could be used at least 1,000 times in competitions. For most races, this type of modification core should be sufficient, as not every turn required it. While it wasn't nearly as strong as Su Chin's modification core, James was still satisfied. After all, it was much better than the adjustable wing modification core he submitted to another competitor. What more could he ask for to annoy that middle-aged woman who thrived on pressure? Don't worry, Master James. Su Che nodded vigorously. This time, Feng He and I will not let you down. Talking about the modification core made him even more confident. Unexpectedly, the legendary and incredibly magical adjustable wing modification core would one day be used by him and Feng He. And there's also the impressive coach known as the Golden Razor. Reflecting on the past 20 days, Su Che felt fortunate and truly understood what it meant to undergo a transformation. It turned out that some knowledge and racing techniques taught by the coaches at the Xinghuan Club were incorrect. It also turned out that there were aggressive and fierce overtaking techniques on the track. Improvement in skills not only required extensive training, but also needed thoughtful consideration. Now, he was completely different. Su Che bowed deeply again, then held Feng He's hand and walked toward the racetrack, heading to his designated starting position number 10. Su Chun, Yu Ming, Ayano, Yi Guanlan. Some of these opponents were familiar, while others were not. If it were 20 days ago, seeing the data of these opponents would have made him tremble. But now, recalling their achievements and the performance data he had seen before the race, he still felt pressure but was no longer afraid. Su Che and Feng He, from Xinghuan Club. As the chief of T3, he is a very talented competitor. Su Che stood tall, clenched his fists, and positioned himself on the starting platform with Feng He. The hostess' introduction was brief and far less detailed than those for several star competitors. In the audience, there were hardly any fans of the Xinghuan Club. He was just the chief of T3, and currently, T3 had only him. Therefore, he had no support team or fan club. Even the logistics team was hired by him alone. The glory belonged to the powerful T1 team led by Su Lin. His glory could only be forged through his own effort. In the harsh racing environment, he aimed to carve out a sky that belonged to him and Feng He. Feng He, let us go. Su Che looked at the mech beside him and took a deep breath. Entering deployment mode. Master James, it's been a long time. Kino glanced at the elderly man with graying hair beside him, feeling a mix of nostalgia and flattery. He had only met James today with Su Che's help. Although he didn't understand why James, an S-class modification master, would suddenly invest in a competitor. After all, James didn't lack money or fame and didn't need a competitor as his trademark. He wondered if perhaps he was just bored in his old age. It has indeed been a long time. James looked at Kino with a sense of nostalgia. Kino was just in his 30s, in the prime of his life. How spirited he had been a decade ago. Now, this golden razor seemed to be covered in rust. Even though he had obviously been groomed, the weariness and trials were still visible on his face. Only his eyes remained sharp, with hidden brilliance. The two exchanged simple pleasantries, reminiscing about the past and looking forward to the future. Eventually, the conversation inevitably turned to Su Che. Kino was very curious about why James was nurturing Su Che, and he could only speculate. Have you become a modification master for the Xinghuan Club? James looked at Kino with an incredulous expression and scoffed. That kind of second-rate club thinks they can invite me to be a tuner? Can they even afford it? To me, the Night Voice is just a junkyard now. And the Star Crown Club is nothing. Kino was momentarily speechless, unsure of how to respond. He could only sigh, realizing that James was still as foul-mouthed as he was 10 years ago. You're curious why I'm cultivating Su Che without any benefit. Just nurturing talent for the Star Crown Club, right? It's a thankless task, isn't it? James replied nonchalantly. This has nothing to do with the Star Crown Club. It's mainly because I have a bet with someone and need to train a driver. Who is that person? Kino lowered his voice, a hint of caution in his tone. Is it okay to reveal? James paused for a moment, looking towards the starting point. It's fine to tell you. That person is actually on the track. The number 3 driver, Su Chun. You should know him. Kino certainly recognized him. How could he not? His name was Thunderous. Kino had been following Su Chun since the incident where he pushed through to the finish line despite a flat tire. But back then, he was merely observing. It wasn't until Su Chun took the stage with Queen that Kino began to research Su Chun's background. Through various channels, he learned about Su Chun's conflict with the Night Voice and discovered that he was actually a tuner, a very mysterious one. No shop, no works, no fame. Until the adjustable rear wing modification first appeared on the track. Faced with the reporter's barrage, Su Chun claimed that the adjustable rear wing modification was his master's product. Just yesterday, Kino had been speculating about who Su Chin's master could be, even wondering if it might be a top-tier tuner like James. But now James said he had a bet with Su Chin. All previous assumptions were overturned. How could James, a top-tier tuner, have a bet with someone like that? Could it be that Su Chin was on the same level as James, or even a more skilled tuner? This absurd thought suddenly popped into Kino's mind. We have different tuning philosophies, and to see whose is more correct, we each need to train a driver to compete on the track, James said, hands behind his back. Gazing at the starting point where the countdown had begun, I chose to train Su Che and Feng, he from the Star Crown Club. Feng he is a Thunderstar Mecha, with very adaptable performance, and Su Che, this driver, has talent and ambition. Plus, being pressured by that fool Su Lin. He is very eager for victory. I need a driver who craves victory. What about Su Chin? Kino asked, his lips dry. Mr. Su Chin chose himself. He is still a driver, isn't he? James chuckled. Can you imagine? A young man like him actually has the same incredible talent in both tuning and racing. What's more, he manages to balance both and has achieved success in both fields. I have lived for more than half my life, and it's the first time I've encountered such an impressive young person. Kino stared in astonishment at the all-white machine girl at the starting point. A faint starlight enveloped the machine girl, with sparks drifting out from the brake calipers amidst the roar of the engine. This indicated that the machine girl had won numerous championships and had a very high-frequency synchronization rate. A machine girl that could reach a certain synchronization level shortly after entering the race. Moreover, she was a catgirl specialized type. Kino, in the past decade. You've never seen a catgirl specialized type machine girl appear on a provincial qualifying track, have you? James's voice echoed nearby, and Kino instinctively shook his head. No matter how cute or beautiful a catgirl specialized type machine girl is, the fact remains that their performance is lacking. But now, this machine girl was releasing a thrilling roar at the starting line. I investigated Su Chin's background. This machine girl was modified entirely by him. A machine girl with a radiant star emblem. Just imagine how skilled he must be in modifications to bring her to this level. Upon hearing James's words, Kino inhaled sharply, biting his dry lips, and cautiously asked, Master James, you seem to know a lot. Do you know about the machine girl named Queen? Was she modified by Su Chin? James fell silent for a few seconds, contemplating. Didn't he witness the modification of Queen by Su Chin? However, it is a fact that before Su Chin took her, Queen couldn't start due to the violent modifications from the Night Modification Group, and she even suffered from severe amnesia. After being taken by Su Chin, Queen appeared at the provincial budget race and crushed Ayano to win the championship. I can almost assert that Queen was modified entirely by Su Chin, thus becoming his second machine girl. James gazed towards the VIP seats of the Northern Wolf T2. He could vaguely see a girl with long hair cascading down, tall and dressed in a black dress, leaning against the railing, gazing at the racetrack. Machine girls from the Night Modification Group often lose emotions and memories after violent modifications. When he was the chief of Night, he was helpless regarding this situation, as he was only responsible for formulating plans and providing the core modifications. In simple terms, he was just an employee with a bit of status. As for what else the Night Modification Group did to those machine girls, he was previously unaware. It was only through Queen's situation and discreet inquiries with the dismissed deputy chief that he became aware. The extensive training memory agents administered were absolutely insane. This was also one of the reasons he left the Night Modification Group. The Night Modification Group was too profit-driven, and staying there felt suffocating. He wanted to live a few more years in peace. Now, Queen's state was clearly not one of emotional and memory loss. She was concerned about Su Chin and the Star Dream on the racetrack. Mr. James, please give me a chance to meet Mr. Su Chin. As Kino spoke, he attempted to kneel before James, but was quickly lifted up by James with swift reflexes. What are you doing? The old man exclaimed, puffing his cheeks in annoyance. A man's knees are worth gold. How can you kneel directly before someone? Kino let out a bitter laugh. After 10 years of setbacks, even survival has become a problem. What do I need that little bit of gold under my knees for? Dignity, fame, and money mean nothing to me. I just hope that Xianghai, who has always been by my side, can get back on track, even if I'm not the one driving. You saw that Queen has been repaired by Su Chin, so you want to ask him for help? James raised an eyebrow. I can't be sure if it's the Queen modified by Su Chin. That's all right. It's still a hope, isn't it? Kino sighed. I am prepared to face everything. I just hope you can give me a chance. All right then. James nodded and helped Kino up, reflecting on everything Kino had gone through. He must have suffered greatly over the past decade. He couldn't help but reassure him. Mr. Su Chin is easy to get along with. If he really has the ability to help Xianghai and is compensated fairly, he will definitely assist. Money is not a problem. Kino immediately replied. I am willing to give everything. Su Chin was unaware that James had labeled him as someone who prioritizes profit, although he had indeed acted that way in front of James. At this moment, he was making his final preparations before the race. He gazed at the beautiful scenery ahead, feeling a stirring in his heart. For instance, should he first convey a bit of belief? As a person whose thoughts and actions were highly synchronized, Suchin immediately reached out and squeezed. The softness was quite invigorating. Masta, what are you doing? A sweet breath wafted over. Suchin looked up and met Xingming's playful gaze. There are only 30 seconds until the race starts. Xingming stood with her hands on her hips, looking somewhat pouting. Masta is still here acting all unserious. Be careful or you'll be left behind right at the start. However, knowing Xingming well, Suchin realized that the little cat girl was not truly angry. Pretending to be upset was her usual way of seeking affection. Suchin pinched her again, earning a playful swat from her fluffy tail. But that furry tail was harmless and only made his nose tickle. You won't be left behind. You should have confidence in us. After their playful banter, they switched to a serious mode. Suchin stared ahead at the wide racetrack, his eyes narrowing slightly. To be honest, this was the first time he had seen such a wide track. The city race at Starry Mansion was completely different from previous competitions. The most crucial point was that there was no staggered start. All competitors would start at the same time, and unconventional confrontations were permitted. Unconventional confrontations meant collisions. This was clearly not good for the mechas with lower stability and endurance. Low stability meant that the mechas were more likely to lose control when impacted. Low endurance meant they couldn't withstand multiple collisions. After all, each collision would consume the mecha's endurance, and after too many collisions, not to mention whether the mecha would be damaged, it could even hinder completing the entire race. The organizers of this race seem to have taken this into account. So the track is not lengthy, with no second lap, and it ends after just one lap. Compared to several other provincial qualifiers, this is the shortest track. Therefore, this race is not friendly for Xingming, unless he can take the lead right from the start and seize the first advantageous route. His competitors are the explosive-type machine girl Yeti and Fengha. The explosive-type machine girl has an inherent advantage in securing the first advantageous route. Fortunately, Xingming has been equipped with a nitrous acceleration modification core. Suchin secretly felt lucky. If it weren't for this modification core, the pressure in this race would have been quite significant. Even if Queen were to compete, she might not benefit much due to not being at her peak performance. Countdown 10 seconds. The broadcast echoed in his ears. Suchin stopped mumbling and shifted into first gear. After Xingming's usual pep talk, he focused intently on the track. With a deep press of the brake and accelerator, the engine roared violently. Boom. Simultaneously, the other machine girls around him also revved up. By the second round of the provincial qualifiers, launching from a standstill had almost become a basic maneuver for all the drivers. At this point in the competition, if someone still didn't know how to launch, one would have to question whether that person was truly a competitor or just a privileged rookie forced into the scene. Countdown 5 seconds. Yeti is coming. Ayano's expression darkened as he calmly took a spoonful of chili sauce and stuffed it in his mouth, instantly turning his face bright red and making his lips tremble. Yeti felt a pang of sympathy, but had no time to care at that moment. In the cockpit of the Siren, Yi Guanyin gripped the steering wheel with a slight smirk. Yu Ming occasionally turned to glance at the Siren, looking quite unconvinced. Xiao Che. Relax. Okay. Even with Fengha's reassurance, Su Che still felt a drop of sweat trickle down his forehead. In this race, he had to show his strength and achieve a good result. Because this time, he wasn't alone. He was fighting not just for Fengha, but also for Master James and Coach Gino who provided him with support. I won't let you down. The boy's voice rang out powerfully amid the final countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. The signal gun fired, and the red light turned green. The moment the needle on Xingming's tachometer approached the red line, Su Chun released the brake. Boom. The powerful force surged through as the four wheels twisted and the body of Xingming shot out like a cannonball. The disadvantage of Xingming's explosive performance was evident the moment the race began. Even though Su Chun had nearly maximized the timing and the engine's optimal RPM, the three explosive-type machine girls still surged to the front first. In the lead was Yeti, followed by Fengha. And then the third and fourth positions were taken by the machine girls of the Flowing Flame Star emblem and another medium-sized club's Thunder Star emblem, while Xingming and the Siren were in 5th and 6th place. In just 3 seconds, from a bird's-eye view, the advantage of the 10 machine girls at the start was clearly defined. Got it. In the cockpit of the Fengha, Su Che clenched his fists, filled with excitement. He understood very well what it meant to establish an advantage early in the race. Although the track seemed wide now, making overtaking appear easy, this was just a deceptive facade. Drivers who truly understood the Starry Building City circuit knew that as the race progressed, the track would become narrower. By the last kilometer, it would often only accommodate a single lane. There's a saying that, on the Starry Building City circuit, the last 5 kilometers of dual lanes can already reveal who the champion is. The final kilometer is where the champion delivers a fatal blow to the 2nd and 3rd places. The 2nd and 3rd place racers could only watch helplessly as the champion crossed the finish line, with no means to catch up, no matter how skilled they were. It was like being an incompetent husband. Currently, although Ayano was ahead in the night hoof, the race had just begun, and there were still many opportunities behind him. As long as he maintained his position in second place, he could find a way to overtake later, and he even had a chance to compete for the championship. The championship of the provincial qualifiers. What an honor. He could hardly imagine it. At this moment, Yu Ming, who was slightly ahead of Siren and Yi Guanlan, wore a smug expression. I thought you were so impressive. Is this all there is? He glanced at the rearview mirror where Star Dream was almost level with Siren, shook his head, and sighed. As expected, Queen is just too outstanding. If Star Dream comes into play, it will truly test Su Chen's skills. He still has a lot of practice to do. We are quite far behind. Siren's delicate face showed some signs of anxiety. However, Yi Guanlan appeared indifferent, even taking the time to observe Star Dream with interest. No need to worry, Siren. This isn't our first time starting behind. You must believe this is the track that suits us. We will eventually catch up, and no one will be our rival. However, Yi Guanlan still felt that Su Chen's performance was somewhat unremarkable. Isn't he supposed to be quite capable? I remember Star Dream is a model from the Radiant Star emblem, right? If a Radiant Star emblem model starts like this, there probably won't be many chances later on. Just as Yi Guanlan was thinking this, 5 seconds into the race, all the machine girls had nearly reached their peak speeds. They had almost all consumed the benefits of the boosted start. Suddenly, the roar of the engines erupted again, louder and sharper, like thunder, resonating in the ears of all the competitors. In the cockpit of Star Dream, Su Chen's lips curled up slightly. You're done accelerating? Now it's my turn. Nitrous acceleration, a system that was rarely seen even in previous lives, now appeared fully matured in this world. For Su Chen, he simply gave Star Dream a command through mental connection. Meanwhile, to the other competitors, the audience in the stands, host Brother Roast Goose, and track analyst MacArthur, it was a moment to behold. The already peak speed Star Dream accelerated again, and it was an explosive surge. Boom. The roar of the engine reached its maximum intensity. Everyone was dumbfounded as they saw a nearly half-meter-long blue flame trailing from the rear wing of Star Dream on the track. The moment this blue flame appeared, Star Dream surged forward like a white phantom, surpassing the competitors chasing Shadow, Wind Crane, and Night Hoof in less than 3 seconds. Moving from 5th position to take the lead with an overwhelming display. It even left the second-place Night Hoof far behind. Only at this moment did the nitrogen boost finally come to an end, and the tail flame of Star Dream disappeared, returning to normal speed. Wow. Yu Ming instinctively patted chasing Shadow's rear, stuttering. Did you just see that? Star Dream just zoomed past. Normally, Yu Ming wouldn't dare to act so rebelliously, knowing that chasing Shadow would retaliate with a combination of ear pinches and a ban on sleeping together at night. But now, chasing Shadow had no intention of using that tactic, as she was equally stunned. I saw it, but why? It felt like Star Dream used a launch boost twice in a row. Chasing Shadow's feeling was identical to that of the other competitors. Indeed, the situation with Star Dream gave the impression that it had executed 2 launch boosts, while other machine girls had already reached peak speeds through their initial launch boosts. Star Dream had seemingly performed another launch at that moment, achieving a burst of acceleration. Not only were chasing Shadow and Yu Ming left dumbfounded, but Ayano, driving Night Hoof, and the following Su Che and Wind Crane were equally astonished. Even Yi Guanlan, who had been confident since the start of the race, now wore an expression of surprise and disbelief. Dear viewers, what just happened? Brother Roasted Goose finally came back to his senses after Star Dream took the lead, gripping the microphone and shouting. He had a strong premonition that a promotion and raise were just around the corner. It seemed that Su Chen and Star Dream had executed a second launch boost. However, he hadn't caught all the details. So let us have the director slow down that footage for us. Beside him, MacArthur furrowed his brow, his strategic composure vanished, and his sharp eyes were glued to the screen. He was also curious about what exactly had happened with Star Dream's explosive acceleration. Under the gaze of the entire audience, the footage began to slow down. When all the machine girls executed their launch boosts, the high-load operation of the engines caused flames to spew from their rear. This flame would cease as the launch boost ended, allowing for clear judgment of whether a machine girl was in the boost state. From this perspective, as the tail flames of all the machine girls on the track gradually receded, Star Dream's rear erupted with an even more brilliant flame at that moment. The flame extended nearly half a meter, making it feel as if Star Dream's rear was equipped with a rocket booster. Hey Nori, you've been following Su Chen and Star Dream around every day. Do you know what is going on? In the VIP section of the Northern Wolf T2, Li Yini adjusted her glasses, feeling uncertain. She realized that her understanding of Su Chen and Xingming seemed a bit too superficial. Previously, she had been completely in the dark when Su Chen used the wall-riding overtake technique. Later, when Su Chen took out the core for the adjustable tail wing modification, she was still unaware. After 2 months of interaction, she had thought she knew enough about Su Chen, at least to be aware of his hidden cards. But now, what were Su Chen and Xingming up to? This made her feel quite foolish and inadequate as the team leader. Nuo lay sighed helplessly, noting that Su Chun was always shrouded in mystery, rarely speaking, and as for Xingming, it was better not to mention her. Although she often followed Su Chun and Xingming around and frequently tried to pry into Su Chen's secrets, she still felt completely in the dark about Su Chen's success rate and efficiency in creating modification cores. Unfortunately, Xingming, the naive mechanical girl, was clueless and provided no useful information. If she didn't even know the basics, how could she possibly know what Su Chen was hiding? However, as she rubbed her chin and squinted slightly, she thought, if her predictions were correct, Su Chen should be deliberately hiding his true capabilities, right? During the first launch, he hadn't given it his all, creating the illusion that Xingming's peak speed was limited, only to accelerate again and seize the first position? But what was his aim in doing so? Li Yini was puzzled, not to mention that during our tests, Xingming didn't display such explosive power or peak speed. If he could secure the first position from the start, why go through all this trouble? Nuo Lei was stumped by Li Yini's questions. But soon, she smacked her forehead and her eyes lit up. I know what he's after. What? Li Yini quickly asked. Of course, it's to show off. Nuo Lei crossed her arms, looking as if she had seen through everything, a smirk on her lips. Look, all the attention in the venue is on Su Chun now. The other competitors must be intimidated by his move. The host keeps replaying the recent footage, which shows just how successful Su Chen's show-off was. This is all about fame. Li Yini furrowed her brows slightly. She felt that Nuo Lei had a point. To become a star driver, one surely needed topics to discuss. And those topics came from performing well in competitions. But was Su Chen really just trying to show off? She glanced at the speedboard, stunned by the peak speed that Xingming had achieved, which seemed impossible. 367 kilometers per hour. Moreover, Su Chen didn't seem like the type to enjoy showing off. But how did he manage to do it? Li Yini vigorously scratched her head, unable to comprehend it. It was so hard to understand. She was dying to know how Su Chun and Xingming had achieved this. She felt as if her head might explode from all the questions. Chapter 208. It might also be ignorance, Mr. MacArthur. You are well informed and must know the situation with Su Chun and the Xingming player, right? Brother Xiaoga handed the microphone to MacArthur. He was skilled at hosting competitions, but he struggled with unexpected situations that arose during the matches. After all, compared to top hosts, the competitions he hosted were relatively minor, leading to a lack of knowledge and experience. However, MacArthur was different. He had once hosted national-level competitions at his peak. It was just that after a significant misanalysis led to a scandal, his career took a downer. But since encountering Su Chun and Xingming, it seemed that this track analyst was on the rise again. Brother Xiaoga thought that this time, Old Mac would provide another brilliant and professional analysis like in previous competitions. However, when the microphone reached Old Mac's hand, he looked bewildered. I'm not too sure about this, MacArthur said uncertainly. From my experience, Xingming is not performing a double jump start, and there is no indication that Su Chun is intentionally hiding his strength while fully utilizing Xingming's speed. The operation that seems like a double jump start from Su Chun and the Xingming player is more likely activating a special skill of the machine girl. Special skill? That can't be right. Brother Xiaoga quickly checked the data to confirm that Xingming did not possess any special skills. That doesn't seem correct, as Xingming doesn't have a special skill. MacArthur scratched his head, appearing troubled. If Su Chun and the Xingming player are intentionally hiding their strength, it would imply that Xingming's peak speed is around 370 kilometers per hour. However, Xingming's peak speed is rapidly declining now, and I've only seen a tail flame this long, half a meter, during sudden acceleration in machine girls possessing special skills. As Old Mac said, after a brief explosive acceleration, Xingming's peak speed was indeed falling. Her peak speed was not the best among the 10 competitors, but she was still ranked near the top. Currently, although she had secured the first position, it was not stable. For instance, the Night Hoof behind her was catching up rapidly. Since the track was quite wide at that moment, overtaking was as easy as eating and drinking for Night Hoof and Ayano. If Su Chun and Xingming had a peak speed advantage, they could maintain their dominance in the first position and would not give Night Hoof any chance to overtake. Therefore, MacArthur speculated that this was not Su Chun intentionally hiding his strength. Additionally, from the performance data of Xingming collected before the match, there was no possibility of hiding strength. Xingming had not entered a phase of synchronized status. Besides special skills, MacArthur couldn't think of any other possibilities. Could it be that Su Chun had another special modification core? This thought crossed MacArthur's mind, but was immediately dismissed. The adjustable wing modification core was already quite extraordinary, yet still within the realm of understanding. If such a special explosive acceleration modification core truly existed, it would be absurd. How would that make the top machine girls with special skills feel? How are those eager to become star drivers supposed to live? Will they all just turn into clowns? At this moment, a wave of murmurs arose from the audience. Soon, these murmurs coalesced into synchronized shouts. Brother Xiao heard it. Apparently, someone was instigating, claiming that the Star Dream was illegally modified. Dear audience, I understand your concern regarding the competition, but please rest assured. Illegal modifications have been strictly prohibited for a century. Once a driver is found to have made illegal modifications, they face life imprisonment. Additionally, our professional team has conducted a thorough inspection of all machines before the competition to ensure that none are in violation. Brother Xiao spoke with a serious tone. Although the current situation of Su Chun and the Star Dream was inexplicable, he firmly believed that there were no illegal modifications. Such labels cannot be arbitrarily placed on competitors, so he had to immediately put a stop to the audience's disruptive behavior. Now, what is the situation with the Star Dream? An explanation is necessary, right? A loud and sharp voice came from the fans of the Night Voice. Brother Xiao turned to see a hefty fan weighing around 300 pounds, dressed in a bright red Chong Sam, clutching a poster of Ayano, clearly a fan of hers. Please remain calm, everyone, and continue watching the competition. Brother Xiao said calmly. After the race, everything will have a reasonable explanation. Although the organizers did not step forward, Brother Xiao's words represented the attitude of the organizers and the judging panel at that moment. Continuing to stir trouble would seem unreasonable. To avoid bringing negativity to her beloved brother, the hefty fan had no choice but to sit down with a sullen face. Thinking to herself, I want to see what explanation they can provide after the race. On the track, Ayano's Night Hoof, with its explosive power and high-speed performance, was gradually catching up to Su Chun and the Star Dream in first place, closely followed by Feng He and the pursuing Shadow. The Star Dream's secondary boost seemed to be just a fleeting moment. Everyone's attention was focused on this machine, eager to see how Su Chun would respond to Ayano's pursuit. The first sharp turn is approaching. Brother Xiao's voice became urgent, tinged with anticipation. Before the first turn, the lanes will converge, narrowing from 10 lanes to 5. This is also the first confrontation zone for the competitors in this race. The Night Hoof was closing in, eyeing the situation closely. Can Su Chun and the Star Dream hold their ground? The crowd was not focused on whether Su Chun and the Star Dream could maintain their position. They were more concerned about that abrupt secondary acceleration, which analysts described as a special skill, and whether it could be replicated. How was it achieved? Is it the modification core? In the front row VIP seating, Gino looked bewildered at the serious-looking old man beside him. He had taken the front row seat by riding on James's coattails. Previously, James had been silently watching the race, but suddenly he muttered something. What do you mean? James replied calmly. Excluding special skills and illegal modifications, it can only be the modification core. The modification core can achieve this? Gino's mouth twitched slightly. He didn't believe it. Times are indeed progressing. The modification core now has more exquisite options than it did a decade ago. However, while the times are advancing, it hasn't fallen out of touch with them. The adjustable rear wing modification core can be considered a groundbreaking new product. With some careful thought, one can fully understand it. But what about the secondary ejection? That's not something a modification core can achieve. James smiled mysteriously. What do you know? Just because other modifiers can't do it doesn't mean Su Chun can't. Don't forget, this machine was restarted after he took over. He gazed thoughtfully at the speeding vehicle on the track, faintly sensing that he might lose the first bet to Su Chun. Kino, never be in a hurry to dismiss things you don't understand. James shook his head with a sigh. I was once like you, until I realized that what we can't understand isn't necessarily wrong. Could it be that we are the ignorant ones? Kino's pupils trembled at his words. He didn't know what level of modification technology it would take for someone like James, an S-class modification master, to say such a thing. Kino didn't have time to think further. As they approached the first turn, at the moment Ayano and Yi were about to overtake, a thunderous roar of the engine erupted once again. He suddenly looked up at the screen, eyes wide open, goosebumps rising on his skin. Chapter 209. Speculation. The first turn of the Star City Grand Prix is not like other races that give drivers a buffer time to gradually get into the rhythm. Instead, it starts with a sharp turn that requires a 180-degree angle. Faced with such a sharp turn, even if the track is wide, all drivers have nearly the same choice, either slow down or drift through the turn. Whether they choose to slow down to take the best line or rely on drift, the speed of the vehicle will significantly decrease at this moment. Su Chun was no exception. Just before entering the turn, he was almost caught up by Ayano and Yi. However, while the audience expected Su Chun to be overtaken by Ayano during the turn, a thunderous roar of the engine shattered their judgment. Su Chun's entry speed into the turn was problematic. They were going to crash into the barrier. Before the commentator finished speaking, the vehicle, almost losing balance and sliding towards the barrier, suddenly accelerated and shot out. Originally, it was supposed to hit the barrier, but due to the slight inward angle of the front end after exiting the turn, this sudden acceleration seemed to counteract the lateral inertia, instantly ending its state of imbalance and allowing it to burst out of the turn at a very critical moment. In the blink of an eye, It had already surged over 100 meters, leaving Yi far behind. At the same time, that distance continued to widen. What on earth is happening? The commentator stared wide-eyed, speechless. Normally, drivers slowed down to navigate the turn, waiting for the vehicle to stabilize before accelerating out of the turn. In the eyes of the audience, this is a process that goes from fast to slow and back to fast, flowing smoothly like an elegant curve. However, Su Chun and Xing Ming are different. From a god's perspective, Xing Ming's cornering trajectory resembles a sharp right angle. There is no buffer, no process of the car realigning. Only pure violent directional changes. It's as if the car hit the guardrail, using it to realign without losing speed at all. In a state of imbalance. The car even shot out suddenly before it had fully exited the turning point. The cornering was too fast, like lightning. MacArthur, next to Xiao Yigu, muttered in disbelief. His eyes wide. While other competitors reduced their speed by about 60% during the turn, did Su Chun and Xing Ming really slow down? In fact, Yi Guanlan and Hai Yao also hardly reduced their speed on the track, relying on their strong cornering attributes. While other drivers had to reduce their speed by around 40%, Hai Yao only needed to reduce it by about 20% to complete the turn. Moreover, this speed could be further optimized based on the driver's skills and the width of the track. Yet, everyone's attention was focused on the lightning-fast Xing Ming ahead. And no one noticed Hai Yao, who was gradually revealing its fangs. Not only was MacArthur surprised, but the audience was also in an uproar. Is there really such a way to corner? This cornering line doesn't conform to logic at all. The turn was too mechanical, with no hint of oversteering. Do you remember when this machine girl launched off the line earlier? Just like that last time right after the corner. The ticket prices for the provincial qualifiers are not cheap, especially this time, which are double the usual rates. Most of the spectators are from middle-class families, along with drivers from other clubs, some tuners, and so on. These people have seen numerous races. Even some who are not drivers have experienced that rivals that of regular racers. While outsiders might not grasp how impressive Su Chun and Xing Ming's performance is, they can tell something extraordinary is happening. Is it really not an illegal modification? Countless people had this thought in their minds. I've only seen such special maneuvers on national-level tracks. MacArthur adjusted his glasses and said solemnly, that is an S-class machine girl with a special skill called jet progressive. Like a jet plane, she can use fuel consumption for jet-like propulsion during the race, achieving explosive acceleration. But Xing Ming is clearly not. Judging from the flames coming from Xing Ming's rear, her explosive acceleration evidently involves the engine. MacArthur explained while gradually analyzing in his mind. He felt he was onto something. But as he wasn't a tuner, he couldn't articulate it clearly. Suddenly, a quarrel erupted behind Xiao Yigu and MacArthur. The director instinctively cut to the scene, revealing that the judges were arguing. One of the judges believed that Xing Ming's secondary launch, performed without any special skills, was an abnormal occurrence. Therefore, the race involving Su Chun and Xing Ming should be immediately halted, and both should undergo further inspection by the organizers. One group of judges believed that Su Chun and Xing Ming should be allowed to finish the race, if nothing was wrong with them. Who would compensate for the losses incurred by stopping the race? The judging panel? The event organizers would never cover for the judges. The points from provincial competitions cannot be traded either, as they pertain to the honor of the competitors and their associated clubs. How could compensation even be arranged? All right, enough arguing. The head judge, sitting at the main position, tapped the gavel and said calmly, there is no need to prematurely end this competitor's race. If there truly is an issue, it will be apparent by the finish line, and their results can simply be cancelled. But many spectators are dissatisfied. Can they get refunds? No. Then why do you care about them? The old man rolled his eyes. Even if we take a step back, refunds are the organizer's responsibility. What is my salary anyway? Are you worried about the event organizers now? Mind your own business. With the chief judge saying this, the other judges could only remain silent and watch the race obediently. On the track, the fierce competition among the competitors continued. Su Chun had already created a significant gap thanks to 2 bursts of nitrous acceleration. His cornering skills were already impressive, even without the assistance of nitrous. He could rely on his proficiency in Drift Control LV3 and the newly acquired Cornering Control LV2 to ensure that Xing Ming could navigate turns without losing much speed. The reduction in drift speed loss by 15 and the improvement in stable cornering speed by 10 meant that the overall effect was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Even if Xing Ming's cornering performance was not the strongest among all the mech girls, Su Chen's personal skills allowed him to maintain a speed loss of less than 30 during turns. Only in certain sharp corners and consecutive turns would he lose more speed. But it was still well above the level of all other drivers. This led to the situation where, despite Night Hoof's excellent acceleration and burst, it was still difficult to catch up with Xing Ming. The distance between the 2 mech girls was indeed gradually closing. But this process was too slow, so slow that Ayano felt anxious. In the cockpit of Night Hoof, Ayano's expression was grim. During his first encounter with Su Chun, he was astonished by Queen's performance and Su Chin's formidable skills, but that was within the realm of understanding. Furthermore, during this race, he felt somewhat regretful when he learned that Su Chun would be using Xing Ming, as he believed that Xing Ming would definitely not be able to outrun Queen. He even suspected that Su Chun was merely participating to gain experience. However, the launch at the starting line struck him like a wake-up call. Before he could grasp what was happening, the first turn hit him again. Except for the star driver and top mech girls with special skills, he had never seen such an unreasonable racing style. Ayano muttered to himself. He actually managed to use some kind of launch-like maneuver to instantly correct the car's position after the turn. Master, I did not sense any fluctuations in star energy. The sound of Night Hoof was laced with evident confusion. She had reviewed the pre-race materials. If Xingming were a top-tier mech girl, or if Su Chun were the pilot of Xinghui, she could accept it. The key point was, they simply weren't. Do you think it could be illegal modifications? Ayano asked. Not likely. Night Hoof shook her head. Recalling the appearance of Xingming, mech girls with illegal modifications often live in agony. Their expressions mostly numb, and crucially, their skin surfaces would show very obvious cracks. Xingming clearly did not have these characteristics. Then Ayano incredulously said, is there a possibility that Su Chun awakened after entering the race, using the skills of Xinghui to achieve such an effect? Night Hoof fell silent. She found this speculation ridiculous, but it seemed to be the only possibility left. The checks for mech girls and pilots in this provincial qualifying race were very strict. Registration had to be completed a week before the race, and the first round of inspections occurred 3 days prior. Then, when the pilots brought their mech girls into the venue, there was a second round of checks. The first round was the most stringent. The second round was more basic, but it would also record the mech girl's status, rank, and performance. When Xingming entered, she was an A-grade mech girl and couldn't possibly be promoted to S-grade during the competition. Thus, the only possibility left was that Su Chun had awakened as the pilot of Xinghui at the last moment. The fluctuations of Xinghui's energy during its use were rather subtle, so she hadn't sensed them. Otherwise, the two inexplicable operations in a row would be impossible to explain. But did Su Chun really have such luck? Night Hoof, we need to hurry. Ayano took a deep breath, quickly grabbing a bag of hot sauce from a nearby storage box. Her tone urgent. This race has a short schedule, and it's still in the 5-lane phase. When it gets to the 3-lane and 2-lane phases later, if Su Chun and Xingming are still ahead of us, overtaking will be difficult. Night Hoof's pupils constricted as she looked at Ayano's determined face in the rearview mirror, her lips trembling. Master, are you really planning to? Yes. Ayano picked up the bag, a fierce glint flashing in her eyes. The South African devil pepper isn't enough for me. I need to try this flame kiss, a specialty of the Alasso Islands, which is twice as spicy as the South African devil pepper. But, with that level of spiciness, you'll end up in trouble. I haven't eaten anything this morning. It'll hurt for a long time, right? I can endure it. Ayano looked at Night Hoof with gentle eyes. Night Hoof, do you remember the promise between us? Night Hoof nodded slightly. Of course, I remember. I will never spray in your cockpit. Ayano said seriously. If that day really comes, and I can't hold back, you open the window, and I will spray outside. What is the point of fame and face? The voice of the night has set me on this irreversible path. If they are shameless, I have nothing to fear. As her words fell, Ayano bit open the bag, her palm tightening fiercely, and with a puff, she squeezed all the hot sauce into her mouth. The magma exploded in her mouth. Ayano's eyes turned red as she threw her head back and roared. The extreme spiciness transformed into intense pain at the throat, burning all the way down to the stomach. It then traveled through the stomach into the large intestine. His whole body felt as if it were engulfed in raging flames. The pain made Ayano's endorphins surge. Amidst this agony, he also sensed a peak of exhilaration. This feeling of letting go of everything simultaneously triggered an explosive release of adrenaline. Ayano's pale face turned crimson, with veins bulging on his forehead. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, and his reflexes heightened dramatically at that moment. The racetrack whizzing by felt like it had entered bullet time, everything slowing down. Truly, as the chief of the Night Hoof T3 team, his skills were impressive. Su Che looked at the glowing taillights of the Night Hoof ahead, secretly lamenting. He no longer had time to ponder how Su Chun and Xingming had overtaken. His only goal now was to latch onto the slipstream of the Night Hoof and find an opportunity to overtake. Initially, he thought such an opportunity would be easy to find, as he had already identified the weakness of the Night Hoof during turns. The slip angle was quite large, and the distance between the rear of the car and the barrier was inconsistent, indicating that the Night Hoof's cornering performance was likely subpar. Coupled with its high acceleration and speed, it became challenging to control during turns. Mastering such a machine required high technical skills from the driver, especially in terms of reflexes. The instant judgment of cornering speed and the selection of the entry point were all based on quick reactions, akin to muscle memory. In contrast, the Wind Crane, while also a model from the Thunderstar series, had excellent cornering capabilities, especially after being upgraded with Master James Tuning Core. With the adjustable rear wing modification, Wind Crane performed remarkably well in corners. However, he had not used the adjustable rear wing modification yet. The race had only just begun. Why reveal his trump card so soon? Now he planned to activate it. As the race progressed, the 5-lane track narrowed to 3 lanes, making it increasingly difficult to overtake the Night Hoof. "Hawk, I'll activate it in the next turn," he said. Just as he finished speaking, the Night Hoof ahead abruptly accelerated. Its speed was already impressive, but it was still increasing. Was it crazy? Suche watched in shock as the Night Hoof sped toward the turn. Just when he thought the Night Hoof would skid and crash into the barrier, it maneuvered through the turn with the rear of the car barely grazing the barrier in an extremely daring manner. Xiao. The warning from Wind Crane jolted Suche back to reality. However, when he regained his focus, he was still a beat too slow, missing the optimal entry timing and had to choose to slow down. By the time he sluggishly navigated the first turn, the Night Hoof had already smoothly drifted through 3 consecutive hairpin turns and sped away. Each turn was executed with incredible smoothness, with the rear of the car almost touching the barrier. It was a stark contrast to the previous operations. What kind of monster is this? Suche was stunned. He had originally planned to latch onto the Night Hoof slipstream, but now he couldn't even see its taillights. It was time to stop hiding his trump card. Suche gritted his teeth and activated the adjustable tail wing modification core. As he approached the second hairpin turn, with a click, the tail wing popped out at the back of the Wind Crane. The previously unbalanced car quickly stabilized. This feeling of stability and reassurance allowed Suche to confidently accelerate. However, he felt anything but relaxed. The Night Hoof in front couldn't catch up, and Xingming couldn't see the taillights. To his surprise, there was also a mech girl catching up from behind, not chasing Shadow, but that sea blue mech girl, seemingly called Siren. It was strange. Why was the intensity of the provincial qualifiers so high? It felt like everyone was acting unusually, almost as if they were cheating. But with the adjustable tail wing modification core and the Golden Razor training, he should be the one dominating the race, right? Suche was sweating profusely, internally lamenting. This was nothing like the race footage Su Lin had shown him from previous years. Chapter 211. Are we still playing? Yuming also felt something was off. He watched in disbelief as Siren gradually overtook him and chasing Shadow ahead. What was going on with these two? Yuming was utterly confused. Based on the launch and the initial straight sprint, Siren's explosive speed and performance were clearly inferior to chasing Shadow. However, from the first turn onward, chasing Shadow had been unable to pull away from Siren. Instead, Siren continued to close the gap. With each turn, the distance between Siren and chasing Shadow shrank. After the 3 consecutive hairpin turns, Siren was already on par with chasing Shadow. "Master, this mech girl is very stable through the turns." Chasing Shadow's driver frowned, saying seriously. "Her cornering speed is fast, and her entry angle and timing are spot on. Plus the driver is quite skilled. Who cares if she's skilled or not?" Yu Ming's expression darkened as he accelerated, trying to block Siren. But Siren, true to her name, was like a slippery fish in the sea, easily twisting away from his attack. Damn it. When Yu Ming saw Yi Guanlan's reaction, he knew he was in big trouble. Through the car window, he caught a glimpse of Yi Guanlan's expressionless profile in the cockpit of Siren. This guy seemed to be not too happy either. Creak. Another turn approached. Chasing Shadow braked early to reduce speed. However, Siren's braking point was much later, braking only near the apex of the turn. Compared to chasing Shadow's braking time, Siren only tapped the brakes, like a dragonfly skimming the water. This time, Yuming saw clearly. In the same turn, chasing Shadow's drift was much wider, with a severe tail slide, and the car body shifted outward more, which meant that chasing Shadow would lose more speed during the drift compared to Siren. It was like a brute versus a true master. The brute would only rely on raw power, while the master could use finesse to achieve the same effect. Yuming didn't want to admit it, but at this moment, facing Yi Guanlan, he felt like he was just a brute. This guy was so strong. Watching Siren overtaking ahead, Yuming felt unwilling yet had to concede defeat. Su Chun and Xingming's overtaking left him baffled. However, Yi Guanlan's overtaking is a true demonstration of technical superiority and performance. The cornering capability of the sea, which must be very strong. While Yi Guanlan's handling of the corners is incredibly smooth and responsive, as if he were a natural-born competitor for cornering races. One can't help but admire him. At this moment, the rankings on the track are as follows. First place, Su Chun, Star Dream. Second place, Ayano, Night Hoof. Third place, Su Che, Wind Crane. Fourth place, Yi Guanlan, Sea Witch. Fifth place, Yu Ming, Chasing Shadow. The distance between the Sea Witch in third place and Wind Crane is narrowing, while the other 5 competitors behind the 5th place have been distinctly separated. There is no doubt that they are almost unable to break into the top 5. Unless something unexpected happens to the top 5, the champion of this preliminary race will emerge from among them. These competitors are under little pressure now, as they see no hope and have instead relaxed. Only the top 5 are still in fierce competition. Chasing Shadow, we still have a chance. Even in 5th place, Yuming has not given up. The Starry Tower City race is selected as a preliminary race not only because of the difficulty of the track and the high demands on the driver's skills and their vehicle's performance, but also due to its comprehensive nature. The strong comprehensiveness is almost a standard for all public competitions. There are special races that consist entirely of straight lines or entirely of curves, but such races cannot be regarded as public competitions. The comprehensive nature of the Starry Tower City race lies in the free route choices in the latter half of the race. For Chasing Shadow, a vehicle with a high peak speed, he can choose a route with fewer curves at the junctions, even if it means facing more jumps, slopes, and a longer track. It may be a good thing for Chasing Shadow. Running like this is truly frustrating. He doesn't dare to fully unleash his performance. What chance do we have? Damn it. Chasing Shadow is starting to lose his composure, wearing a gloomy face. We initially aimed to secure 2nd place and challenge for 1st, and now it has turned into securing 5th and challenging for 4th. Before the race, he and Yuming watched plenty of past race footage and were confident about this competition. Yet, the opponents are increasingly outrageous. Don't worry. Let's try to stay in the slipstream of the Sea Witch. As long as we don't make mistakes, we won't be too far behind until the mid-race changes the track. And then it will be our chance to overtake the competitors ahead. Yuming's expression is serious, shedding his usual playful demeanor. Looking at the tail lights of the Sea Witch ahead, he secretly vows, just wait. Let you be arrogant for a while. The new combination of holy marks and modification core he prepared for Chasing Shadow is not just for show. What is that vehicle's 2nd launch? A special skill or something else? Inside the cockpit of the Sea Witch, Yi Guanlan murmurs to himself, his earlier ease gone. Among the 3 competitors in front of him, only Su Chun and Ayano pose any real pressure. The former's methods and origins are too mysterious, leaving him unable to gauge or see clearly. The latter possesses the talent to become a star driver, relying on the high spiciness of chili sauce to achieve an exceptionally high neural response. With such a high neural response, even driving a Thunder Star emblem vehicle, navigating curves becomes quite effortless. As for Su Che and Feng He, they are decent opponents, but still not enough to challenge him and the Sea Witch. It's better to play it safe, as the intensity of this race is unexpectedly high. Yi Guanlan also didn't foresee this, and can only take it step by step. He still has confidence in breaking records because he has done so in the simulation races. However, it seems that today's competitors also have the potential to set new records. Just as he was thinking this, Feng He, who was ahead, suddenly made a clicking sound while taking a turn. In the bewildered eyes of Yi Guanlan and the Sea Witch, they saw that a row of rear wings on Feng He's vehicle had automatically risen. Isn't this the adjustable rear wing modification core that had been making waves recently? Yi Guanlan had also paid attention to this modification core. However, compared to other drivers, he wasn't particularly eager for such a special modification. The Sea Witch already has a fixed rear wing. Given the Sea Witch's average speed performance, whether or not to have a rear wing on a straight track feels about the same. It's not that he couldn't get this modification core. It's just that the adjustable rear wing modification core has indeed been developed, right? His group is also a top-tier organization. Their modification team is no less capable than the Knight team of the Black Knight Voice. Why is it that drivers from a second-tier club like the Star Crown Club's T3 team can use it, while he, a key player cultivated by his group, hasn't used the latest products? At this moment, even Yi Guanlan, who usually stays calm, is starting to feel the pressure. With the double boost and adjustable rear wing, can they keep playing like this? In Chapter 212, The Diverging Path, the Sea Witch overtakes and chases after Feng He. She continues to advance towards the leading Feng He. The Sea Witch, which was originally in the 5th position, finally shows its fangs in the dense curves. How will Su Che and Feng He respond to the Sea Witch's relentless pursuit? What? An adjustable rear wing modification core. Feng He also has an adjustable rear wing modification core. With the help of this special core, Feng He's cornering speed greatly increases, making the Sea Witch's attack seem less urgent. The moment the adjustable rear wing popped up from the back of Feng He's vehicle, the entire racecourse erupted in astonishment. The adjustable rear wing first appeared in Su Chen's hands, and the later competitor, Queen, also has an adjustable rear wing. Therefore, if adjustable rear wings appear on Xingming and Queen, the audience present would not be surprised. Nowadays, even the most oblivious people know that Su Chun or the team behind him has the capability to produce adjustable rear wing modification cores. It's not at all as Su Chun claimed, that it was a core given to him by a down-and-out modifier. However, the appearance of this core on Feng He is somewhat puzzling. Although Su Chun and Su Che share the same surname, they are definitely not relatives or friends. One person is at Northern Wolf T2, and the other is at Star Crown T3, and Northern Wolf and Star Crown clubs are in a hostile relationship. This directly rules out the possibility of Su Chen funding Su Che. So the question arises, where did Su Che's adjustable rear wing modification core come from? It can't possibly be made by the Star Crown club, right? Does the modification team at Star Crown have that level of skill? If they did, wouldn't they have gone to work for a top club by now? The audience was in an uproar. In front of the TV, Su Lin, who was watching the match between Su Che and Feng He, looked confused. In the VIP seating area of the Night Voice, Qin Xin was gripping the armrest tightly, gritting her teeth. Su Lin wasn't clear where Su Che got the modification core, but Qin Xin had guessed it. It was James. It had to be James. Rumor had it that Su Che and Feng He received help from a benefactor for this match, one of whom was a modification master, and the other a once-famous coach. Considering James submitted a plan regarding the adjustable rear wing modification core when he resigned, and ruling out the possibility of Su Chen funding Su Che, the answer is obvious. The benefactor helping Su Che is James. As for why James would provide Su Che with the adjustable rear wing modification core, it's clear that this old man was deliberately giving the Night Voice group a hard time. James was using this modification core to show her and her group that even after leaving Night Voice, he could still thrive and even bring trouble to them. Night Voice couldn't do without him. Losing James would be a huge loss for the Night Voice group. Heh, Qin Xin sneered, thinking that James really believed Night Voice group would collapse without him. No matter how powerful the adjustable rear wing modification core is, it's just an external factor. Whether a player can win the championship relies on their skills and the performance of the machine. She murmured to herself, and as she spoke, she became less angry. She even found James's act of returning to the company after leaving quite childish and ridiculous. A large group like that could be so easily affected? Then maybe Night Voice should just close down early. At that moment, James, who was closely watching the battle between Su Che and Su Chun, sneezed. Damn, who is cursing me? He muttered, looking around. It couldn't be that Qin Xin woman, could it? Even with the help of the adjustable rear wing modification core. The sea which was still gradually closing the gap with Feng He, just not as fiercely as before. Overtaking Feng, he seemed like just a matter of time. After a brief surprise and commentary, Brother Xiao Yi's gaze didn't linger on the sea which in Feng He, but focused the camera on Xing Ming and Yi Ti. This was also a fierce battle that the audience was most concerned about. As the race entered its mid-stage, the 5 lanes were about to switch to 3 lanes. And Ayano's Yi Ti was getting closer to Xing Ming, preparing to overtake again. Brother Xiao Yi's tone was urgent, his voice excited. This time, can Su Chun and Xing Ming hold on to the first position again? Will that miraculous operation similar to a second launch appear once more? We shall see. Brother Xiao Yi's question was also on the minds of the audience present. Entering the 3-lane section, Nighthoof moved into the slipstream of Star Dream. MacArthur's eyes darkened. It's coming. In the 3-lane section, Nighthoof's space for maneuvering shrank even further. However, there was still a possibility for overtaking. Once they entered the 2-lane stretch, even if Ayano was well prepared this time, and Nighthoof's performance was strong, it would be challenging for Su Chun to execute a regular overtaking maneuver, given the defensive capabilities he displayed in the first provincial qualifying race. As all the spectators watched nervously, Nighthoof drew closer to Star Dream. Under Ayano's control, Nighthoof began to weave left and right on the track, feigning a forward attack, while Su Chun and Star Dream showed no reaction. Master, they want to overtake. Star Dream's voice was urgent as she frequently glanced at the rearview mirror, her eyes betraying a hint of anxiety. For her, this race was incredibly thrilling. She had held the first position for nearly the first 15 minutes. She also knew that as the race progressed and the lanes narrowed, her lead would become more secure. So when she noticed Nighthoof attempting to attack, she felt a bit flustered. I see it. Su Chen glanced at the rearview mirror, looking calm. If he wants to overtake, let him. However, Star Dream bit her red lip, wanting to say something, but then remembered this was Su Chen's decision and swallowed her words. Nonetheless, Su Chen noticed Star Dream's confusion. He said lightly, the 3-lane section is quite narrow. If we try to contest with them, a collision is bound to happen. It's true that unconventional confrontations are normal in races, but as your master, I don't want you to get hurt. The last provincial qualifying race didn't explicitly state that contestants could engage in unconventional confrontations, so Ayano and Nighthoof might hold back. But this time is different. This race encourages confrontations. If Ayano gets desperate, who knows what he might do to you and Star Dream? I would feel very pained. I have a safer way to win the championship. Why should I let Star Dream suffer? Master, I'm not afraid of pain. Star Dream said anxiously. For the honor of the track, a little hardship is nothing. Don't rush. Su Chen scolded lightly, gripping the steering wheel firmly. Star Dream's cheeks flushed, and she pouted in silence. Waiting for a turn, Su Chen not only avoided confrontation with Nighthoof, but also actively moved closer to the inner lane, opening up space between the middle lane and the outer lane. Just wait for a turn, he said confidently. We can reclaim everything we've lost. And the other competitors will no longer have a chance to contest the championship with us. Chapter 213. Moving forward reluctantly. Suchun and Stardream could not maintain their first position. Seeing Night Hoof successfully overtake, Brother Roast Goose couldn't help but sigh, even though it was expected. Indeed, that technique of secondary launch was not so easy to execute. Regardless of what brought about this technique, it certainly came with costs and sacrifices. Clearly, Suchun could not use it recklessly. He really didn't expect that Suchun and Xingming would voluntarily give way to Yi Ti. This might make the fans of Suchun and Xingming think that his behavior is quite cowardly, right? The camera pans to the audience. And to Xiao Yi's surprise, the fans of Suchun and Xingming are very calm. Through the broadcast camera, one can vaguely hear the cheers from these fans. Well done, Suchun. Protect Xingming. Don't let Yi Ti bump into you. Xingming first, competition second. Xiao Yi go. Why do the fans of Suchun and Xingming seem a bit different from those of other racers? Upon closer inspection, he found that most of Suchun and Xingming's fans were middle-aged and elderly men and women. That makes sense, as older individuals tend to have more stable emotions. Unlike the young fans and those who cheer for reckless racers, who will mercilessly criticize their favorite drivers for even a hint of cowardice. In fact, Suchun and Xingming's choice is very rational. MacArthur, seizing the moment, analyzed seriously. Xingming's endurance and stability are not very good. Competing for the first position with Yi Ti in a 3-lane setup will inevitably lead to unconventional confrontations, which may compromise Xingming's endurance to finish the race. Whether it's to protect the machine girl or to complete the race, Suchun's choice is very smart. He paused and continued, I've seen Suchun's journey so far. And if I'm not mistaken, he hasn't completely given up on the first position. He must be waiting for an opportunity. Waiting for an opportunity? Xiao Yigus signaled the director to display the map of this race on the big screen. All the red dots representing the racers were converging towards one spot, which is the selection track for this race, showcasing the charm of the Xingchun Tower Urban Race. Dear viewers, Xingming and Yi Ti, who are in positions 1 and 2, are about to reach the selection track. I wonder what choices Suchun and Ayano will make. The so-called selection track appears in some special races, featuring multiple branching paths for racers to choose from. These paths temporarily split from the main route, but will ultimately converge back to it. However, these branches have different characteristics and varying difficulties for different types of machine girls. As Xiao Yigu explained, the director also marked the first selection track of the Xingchun Tower Urban Race on the 3D map. The approaching selection area will ultimately split into 3 routes. Branch 1 retains the original track style, filled with various challenging curves. Branch 2 is a longer route that takes a detour, but with noticeably fewer curves and a lot of jumps. Branch 3 is a short course, resembling a bridge over branches 1 and 2, but it presents higher difficulty than both branches. The first challenge of this branch is a super jump spanning 98 meters. Following the jump is a sharp turn with no guardrails, quickly followed by an uphill jump, and ultimately this branch will rapidly merge with branch 1. Mr. MacArthur, which branch route do you think Suchun and Xingming will choose? After Brother Xiao Yi explained the track, he handed the microphone to Old Mai. Adjusting his glasses with a mysterious smile, Old Mai said, based on my understanding of contestant Suchun, I think he will choose branch 3. Branch 3. Brother Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. The broadcast switched to a full view of branch 3, revealing a track overgrown with weeds and even some moss. It was clear that hardly any contestants would choose this track. Due to the long absence of participants, the organizers had even neglected to clean it up. If it weren't for Brother Xiao Yi producing a 3D model of the race confirming the existence of branch 3, he might have disregarded the track that looked like an abandoned road. Is that really possible? Brother Xiao Yi questioned. This branch has a flying jump over a 98-meter-high bridge, with a height difference of about 5 meters between Bridge A and Bridge B. To complete the jump, the machine girls need to reach a speed of over 370 kilometers per hour. Suchun and Xingming wouldn't be able to do that, right? What if Suchun and Xingming use a second boost again? MacArthur suggested. Brother Xiao Yi was taken aback and pulled up Xingming's peak speed, which was 365 kilometers per hour. That is still not enough. To achieve a 98-meter jump, 370 kilometers per hour is the absolute limit. Theoretically speaking, there is no theory. MacArthur shook his head. Brother Xiao Yi, you need to understand, the machine girls are not cold machines. The old analyst's eyes slightly lowered, and a serious expression crossed his wrinkled face. They are life, and life has the power to surpass limits and create miracles, unlike cold machines. As MacArthur finished speaking, while Brother Xiao Yi was still in shock, Yi Ti and Xingming entered the selection area one after another. Ayano, driving Yi Ti, unsurprisingly chose the first branch track. Meanwhile, as MacArthur had predicted, Suchun and Xingming showed no hesitation at all. With a slight turn, they charged straight towards the overgrown branch 3. They really went for it. Brother Xiaoyi exclaimed. In the audience, countless fans of Su Chun and Xing Ming stood up, holding their breath as they stared at the screen. How could they choose this? In the VIP seats of Northern Wolf T2, Li Yini widened her eyes, a drop of cold sweat forming on her forehead. Beside her, the girl from nowhere was momentarily frozen, her hand paused mid-bite of a chip. Queen, still maintaining her cool demeanor, gazed at the big screen, her hand gripping the railing tightly. Behind Su Chun and Xing Ming, Su Che, driving Feng He, looked bewildered. Seeing Su Chun and Xing Ming's choice, he hesitated for a moment before quickly steering Feng He into the same first branch track as E.T. But his eyes remained fixed on the figure on the bridge. Not just him, but all eyes in the venue were drawn to that bridge. Xing Ming's white car traced a straight line across the bridge. With no guardrails at the edge of the track, gravel tumbled down. Her tires crushed the weeds sprouting through the gaps, moving forward with unwavering determination. The sunlight poured down from the front, sharpening her silhouette into a piercing beam of light. As if to cleave through the forgotten desolation. Speed was accumulating. The engine's hum became pure and focused. The bridge deck shortened beneath her feet, and the void at the end rushed toward her. She did not slow down. Starlight gathered around her vehicle. Chapter 214, Nitrous Leap for Xingming. Entering a stage of synchronized resonance was a very simple matter. Living with Su Chun day and night, sharing meals and sleep, her foundational frequency had reached an astonishing 55. Even though the gradual enhancement of synchronization had become increasingly difficult, a frequency of 55 was enough to stand out anywhere. Unfortunately, the competition would not test the synchronization levels of the machine girls before the race. Otherwise, if Xingming's frequency with Su Chun were to be revealed, countless drivers would be green with envy. A frequency of 55 was simply outrageous. Even dating a machine girl might not achieve such heights. This not only indicated the deep bond between Su Chun and Xingming, but also their mutual trust. Xingming was almost defenseless around Su Chun, and the two shared an extraordinary tacit understanding. When Su Chun told Xingming to be patient, she had been holding her breath, waiting for the fork in the road and the opportunity that Su Chun mentioned. Just moments ago, right before entering the selection track, Su Chun had said to her, "The opportunity is here." She surged up the elevated bridge, aiming for the 98-meter-long super jump. Starlight coalesced around Xingming, trailing a faint glow behind her, while sparks flew from the heated brake calipers, resembling countless shimmering scales reflecting sunlight, flickering like embers amidst the weeds. A stage of synchronized resonance. The commentator shouted into the microphone, "Ladies and gentlemen, Xingming has entered a stage of synchronized resonance. Her peak speed is rapidly increasing." Upon entering this stage, Xingming's peak speed surged, and she zipped past speed zones, the instantaneous speed scrolling rapidly on the big screen, from 290 to 300, then to 310 kilometers. Yet, 310 kilometers of instantaneous speed was still insufficient to leap over the 98-meter elevated bridge. The commentator's voice trembled, his eyes shining brighter and brighter. Following that increasingly close jump point, a figure shrouded in starlight was evident. What were Su Chun and Xingming about to do? It was obvious. Yet, even with everything anticipated, the excitement was palpable. Below the elevated bridge, Yi Ti, Feng He, and Hai Yao were still speeding through the turns. The pursuing shadows chose the second branch of the track, racing beneath the bridge as well. Everyone could hear the rising roar of engines above them on the bridge. What was this person trying to do? The answer to their question came with a thunderous roar. Boom. The void of the broken bridge rushed toward them. Now's the moment. Su Chun floored the accelerator, and amidst the tearing sound of the engine, he surprisingly remained calm. The torrent of track information flooded into his mind, then was slowed frame by frame. Just as the nervous system was about to process these images, the muscle memory driven by vision reacted even faster. At this moment, the vehicle was only 5 meters away from the jump ramp. The nitrous acceleration system was activated. Boom. Flames erupted fiercely from the rear of the vehicle, as if 4 stars were igniting and bursting at its tail. 1 meter away from the ramp, the final speed zone. A momentary speed of 380 kilometers per hour flashed on the big screen. The announcer's voice was hoarse, but resonated in every spectator's ear. Second launch. Su Chun and the vehicle once again executed a second launch before the ramp. Their current speed was 380 kilometers. A momentary speed of 380 kilometers. The tremendous G-force pressed Su Chun tightly against the seat, but his gaze under the helmet was sharp as an eagle, firmly locking onto the landing point across the way. The suspension system of the vehicle was compressed to its limit in this extreme moment, then released violently. The entire white body of the vehicle shot forth like an arrow released from a powerful bow, the nose slightly raised. At a perfect angle, it decisively launched off the bridge, diving into the dizzying void. Whoosh! The sound of slicing through the air was sharp and piercing. The raging wind was split by the heated body of the vehicle. The airflow swirled like water waves on either side of the front, carrying tire smoke. Forming a clear white vortex behind the vehicle soared into the air. Su Chen made no unnecessary maneuvers, his hands firmly gripping the steering wheel, maintaining the vehicle's level. In fact, with the high explosive acceleration from the nitrous, as long as there were no issues at the moment of takeoff, it was hard for the vehicle to lose balance. But he remained on high alert. This was the most critical moment. The jump was just the beginning, and a stable landing was the real challenge. It required the driver to have sufficient skill in controlling the vehicle's posture. Any tilt or deviation could lead to catastrophic consequences upon landing. It sounded complicated. Yet, in reality, Su Chen had only 1 second to think and adjust the vehicle's posture. With a 5-meter height difference and a leap over a 98-meter high bridge, it would take less than a second. Time seemed to stretch. All the spectators in the secondary seats looked up, holding their breath as they gazed at the white arc slicing through the azure sky. She flew so high so far, even surpassing the height of the bridge deck below. The shadow of the vehicle quickly swept past the other stunned drivers on the lower branch track, who were looking up in astonishment. The parabola reached its peak and then began to descend. In the blink of an eye, Su Chen's expression was calm, his eyes fixed on the rapidly approaching landing slope. His right foot hovered over the brake, while his left hand quickly adjusted the suspension, preparing for the impact of landing. 1 second, fleeting. All 4 wheels of the vehicle almost landed simultaneously. Thud. A muffled impact resonated through the body of the vehicle. However, the suspension system perfectly absorbed most of the impact force. The body only sank sharply before quickly rebounding, maintaining an astonishingly stable posture. Compared to having the rear or front wheels touch down first, landing all 4 wheels simultaneously could distribute the impact force evenly across the entire chassis. The higher the stability of the machine, the stronger its resistance to such impacts. The stability of Star Dream is only 44, but under Su Chen's landing maneuver, that impact doesn't seem significant at all. Su Chen and the Star Dream player have landed. They completed a jump of 98 meters. Brother Roast Goose knelt on the ground, blushing and roaring with his head tilted back. At that moment, he was almost like those rock singers singing passionately. The 4 wheels of Star Dream nearly touched the ground simultaneously. MacArthur sincerely praised, Su Chen's control over the machine's body is still so impressive. It seems simple for all 4 wheels to land simultaneously, but it actually requires high technical skills from the driver. First is the angle of takeoff, and second is the adjustment of posture during the jump. In that fleeting moment, the driver relies entirely on the muscle memory developed through training. MacArthur found it hard to imagine how much training such a young driver like Su Chen must have gone through to achieve such precision and details. He couldn't have started driving machines since he was in the womb, could he? On the track, there was hardly any hesitation. The moment Star Dream landed, Su Chen pressed the accelerator again, making good use of the remaining momentum and the slope's angle after landing. The engine of Star Dream roared, trailing a magnificent flame, and continued to dash towards the next turn on branch 3 of the track at a terrifying speed. After a brief silence, the audience erupted into enthusiastic cheers that seemed to tear through the sky. Chapter 209. Imagination. Without worrying about how Su Chen and Star Dream executed the second launch and whether it complied with the rules, the sheer spectacle was enough to stir the emotions of the audience and get their blood boiling. No, Su Chen and Star Dream couldn't control their speed anymore. MacArthur's expression changed drastically as he kept a close watch on their movements. On the screen, Su Chen and Star Dream charged straight towards the first turn after the jump, seemingly without any time to slow down. And the reality was, there truly was no time to slow down, due to the effects of the nitrous acceleration system. When Star Dream landed, its peak speed was still around 380 kilometers per hour. However, there was only a 50-meter straight buffer track from the jump landing to the next turn. Su Chen had less than 0.5 seconds to react. Relying solely on muscle memory in that 0.5 seconds wouldn't be enough. In the blink of an eye, they would face a sharp turn with an angle as high as 180 degrees. After the cheers came the panic. The master could only watch helplessly as Star Dream rushed towards the turn without any guardrails. It's over. At that moment, Brother Roast Goose lost his voice, and MacArthur's heart sank to the bottom. The cheers from the audience turned into a frightened uproar, and some fans of Su Chen and Star Dream were already shouting for medical assistance. The other competitors on the track had no idea what would happen next. They only knew that Star Dream had just flown over their heads, followed by a roar of engines from the overpass. But for Su Chen in the cockpit of Star Dream, everything was still under control. He never considered taking the normal route through the bend after the jump from branch 3. In fact, he hadn't prepared for that bend at all. What is the difference between a bend without guardrails and a jump ramp? What he needed to do was choose the right landing spot. Xingming, prepare. Received, meow. Xingming probably understood what Su Chen was about to do. He had explained it to her before the race. Choosing branch 3 in the positioning area was just the beginning. The core challenge was handling that bend after the jump. If he took the normal route, It would take 5 kilometers to return to the main route of Branch 1. But if he jumped from the edge of the bend, he could immediately land on Branch 2 under the overpass. Branch 2 has fewer bends compared to Branch 1, with more jumps and long straights, and they would return to Branch 1 through a jump point here. Their plan seemed thankless. But it's important to know that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. By relying on the jump to return from Branch 3 to Branch 1, they would gain a significant lead over the Night Hoof, who had originally overtaken them. Even more impressively, they would be the first to return to the main route. At that moment, as the 3 tracks converged, the 3-lane track would ultimately become a 2-lane track. As soon as Su Chen finished speaking, Xingming had already burst out of the bend, drawing a graceful arc like an arrow released from a bow. She soared over the high point, the rear of the car slightly lifting with the flame, while the front dipped slightly as she leaped toward Branch 2 under the overpass. I know what they're planning. Seeing this scene, MacArthur couldn't help but slam the table, his eyes shining. Genius. Not a madman. Su Chen was a madman. Only a madman would come up with such an outlandish racing strategy. He wasn't limited to choosing any of the branches 1, 2, or 3. What he wanted was to make the most of all 3 branches, avoiding all the winding bends through jumps. In the shortest time, he aimed to reach the convergence of the 3 branches faster. Wow. Even a seasoned host like Brother Xiao couldn't help but curse. Can this really work? Is it considered a violation? As he spoke, Su Chen and Xingming had already landed smoothly on Branch 2. Compared to the pursuing Ying and Yuming entering Branch 2, Su Chen and Xingming had completely ignored a full 8 bends by using the jump method, gaining a significant lead. In the eyes of Yuming and Ying, they were running just fine, when suddenly, from the end of the view obscured by a series of bends, Su Chen and Xingming flew directly down from the overpass, running ahead of them. If it weren't for the open visibility here, with the winding track, they could hardly see the tail lights of Xingming's car. No. This isn't right. Yuming looked ahead with a bewildered expression. Which branch are Su Chen and Xingming on? How can he jump around on the track like that? How can he do whatever he wants? Ying was speechless. She was equally shocked. Su Chen's ideas were so outlandish. Jumping from Branch 3 to Branch 2. Was that something a normal person would think of? Is there any violation? Can it be successfully executed? And can risks be avoided? Is he not worried at all? No one can provide answers to her and Yuming. They can only wait until the end of the competition to ask Su Chen and Xingming directly. Su Chen and Xingming's jumping maneuvers were quite experienced, especially their transition from Branch 3 to Branch 2, which astonished many. Besides the audience supporting Su Chen and Xingming, there were also dissenting voices in the crowd. Some fans from other teams or bystanders felt that Su Chen and Xingming were driving illegally, deviating from the race route. This is a foul, shouted an audience member holding up a water bottle. If there are no rules in the race, anyone could run freely, and that would be chaos. Such players should be disqualified. Refund the tickets. Refund the tickets if Su Chen and Xingming don't withdraw. The pressure was on the judges. After a heated discussion, the gray-bearded chief judge stood up, faced the camera, and announced loudly, "Dear audience friends, please remain calm." The Star Tower City Road Race was built with a core principle of boundless imagination. The design blueprint of this track is a treasure left by Lord Star God. He believed that a qualified driver must not only possess excellent skills and rich experience, but also have a strong spirit of adventure and boundless imagination. The Star Tower City Road Race is one of the representative tracks showcasing imagination. Haven't you seen such branching tracks in other competitions? This type of track, allowing players to choose freely, is itself a test of the driver's imagination by the Star God. Branch 3 has a super long jump of 98 meters, which is rarely chosen by drivers. A century has passed, and almost no driver has fully utilized the imaginative potential of this track for better performance. But today, I see the imagination that Lord Star God wishes to see in Su Chen and Xingming. The chief judge paused slightly. He knew that merely saying this wouldn't convince the audience, as these words could only be seen as his subjective interpretation of the Star God's will. Therefore, he directly asked the broadcast team to display the track rules of the Star Tower City race on the big screen. The initial rules were mostly consistent with those of other public competitions. Only the last 2 rules were different. 1. In this competition, unconventional confrontations between players are permitted. 2. In this competition, players are allowed to choose their own routes as long as they do not leave the track. He read the last rule to the audience, looked around, and smiled as he asked, "May I ask, did Su Chen and Xingming leave the track? Did they not freely choose their routes?" The audience silently observed Xingming, who was still speeding on Branch 2 on the big screen. According to the competition rules, Su Chen and Xingming indeed did not leave the track. At the same time, they did freely choose their routes. It's just that other players made single choices, while they made multiple choices. Is this the kind of imagination that Lord Star God desires? The questioning voices in the audience gradually faded away, and the chief judge returned to his seat, struck the gavel, and announced that Su Chun and Xing Ming's maneuvers were valid. In the audience stands of the Northern Wolf T2, Li Yini let out a sigh. The corners of her mouth slightly raised. This brat. He doesn't say a word before pulling off a stunt, making everyone anxious. If he had said it, you wouldn't have been happy either. Nua Lei rolled her eyes. Who doesn't know your battle plan is to prioritize safety? If you revealed that Su Chun and Xingming's tactics, it would be surprising if you didn't get upset. Shouldn't I be upset? It's so dangerous. Li Yini pinched Nua Lei's head and shouted in her ear. Can't you hear? The track analysts are saying Su Chun is crazy. After the competition, he needs a serious talking to, always scaring people. Master, to be honest, said Dong Xiong beside them, frowning, while Su Chun and Xingming's maneuvers are impressive and imaginative. I still don't quite understand. Given the current situation, Su Chun and Xingming are indeed far ahead of the Shadow Chaser on the second branch, and have also surpassed Night Hoof overall. However, due to the nature of the second branch track, continuing on it is like taking a detour. Xingming is not suited for this track in terms of peak speed, and it's only a matter of time before Night Hoof overtakes. So what is the point of what he is doing? Right. Li Yini slapped her forehead. Bewildered, what is the point of doing this? Is it to humiliate that brat Yuming? But shouldn't he be humiliating the blonde guy? Hey, sister. I'm still listening here. Huang Shishun's mouth twitched. Can't you at least check if I'm around when you say these things? I'm the captain, and you are just a reserve player. I can diss you openly. Li Yini placed her hands on her hips, standing her ground. Heh. A cool laugh came from behind them. It's understandable that you don't grasp my master's thoughts. After all, you're not his machine girl. You haven't been close to him, living together day in and day out, so your understanding of him isn't deep enough. What? Nua Lei turned to look at Queen, narrowing her eyes. Are you saying you've been close to Su Chun? Queen's face flushed slightly, and she turned her gaze away, saying solemnly, this is just a metaphor. She cleared her throat and calmly shifted the topic. Master can jump from the third branch to the second branch, and then back to the first branch. Haven't you noticed that the second branch has many high slopes? As long as the angle is adjusted properly, each of these slopes can serve as a ramp to jump to the first branch track, and Master only needs to choose the most suitable one. Note, the text continues with further plot developments, but this portion ends here. The design of this track is quite ingenious. After the jump on branch track number 3, there's a sharp turn followed by another jump, which can lead into branch track number 2. Additionally, as long as the angle is adjusted properly, the jump slope on branch track number 2 can clear a height difference of about 3 meters to reach branch track number 1. Each jump slope offers one opportunity. There are a total of 64 jump slopes on branch track number 2, meaning that even if the first attempt fails, there are still 63 chances to jump onto branch track number 1. This gives Su Chun the impression that choosing the shortest route by jumping on the 3 branch tracks is a shortcut intentionally left by the track designer. Although changing lanes and jumping is dangerous, it is also the fastest way to reach the merging point of the branches. The designer of this track envisioned that competitors would use their imagination and bravely leap off the track. Of course, Su Chun also considered that he might be overthinking it or being overly sentimental. In any case, this was a racing strategy that came to him just half a day before entering the arena. The original plan was to effectively utilize the 5 opportunities for nitrous boosts to firmly keep Ayano and Yi at bay until the third lane, and then rely on technical skills to dominate defensively, preventing Yi from overtaking. This strategy was initially developed by him, Li Yini, and the track analyst from the Northern Wolf T2 team, but it was clear that this plan would significantly increase the chances of Xingming getting injured. At the same time, plans often change. Ayano and Yi were too strong, performing at a level far beyond what the Northern Wolf T2 analysis team had anticipated. Su Chun didn't want to lose the race, nor did he want Xingming to get hurt. Therefore, within the scope of what he could control, he resolutely decided to employ a seemingly riskier backup plan. Since the race hadn't been called off, it seemed feasible. Su Chun couldn't help but shake his head in disbelief at how useful studying the track rules had been. The first jump point on branch track No. 2 was rapidly approaching. Su Chun focused his gaze, gripping the steering wheel tightly in preparation for the jump. It seemed that Su Chun and Xingming were set to take on branch track number 2. Brother Xiaoyi was taken aback as he watched Xingming charge straight towards the high slope. Xingming's speed and explosive performance don't seem to have an advantage among the drivers. Can she handle it on branch track number 2? MacArthur maintained a serious expression without speaking. He realized that whenever Su Chun and Xingming were racing, one should not rely too heavily on past experiences, because no one knew if Su Chun would suddenly pull off some incredible maneuver. As a 5-star track analyst, he also cared about his reputation. If he got predictions wrong every time, how would the audience view him? Therefore, rather than making predictions in uncertain situations, it was better to remain silent and comment when Su Chun and Xingming made their moves. This way, he could avoid mistakes and fully showcase his professionalism. In this regard, Brother Xiao Yi was far behind him. It turned out that MacArthur's thinking was correct, because at the moment they rushed up the slope, Xing Ming's car slightly turned, and with the sharp screeching of tires against the track, her vehicle slid towards the top of the slope in a state close to losing control. Xing Ming was out of control. Brother Xiao Yi shouted, "Why did Su Chen apply the brakes while going uphill? This is quite a dangerous maneuver." Compared to the startled reaction of the other driver, the experienced one appeared much steadier. His gray eyes narrowed slightly, with a flash of brilliance in his mind. Could it be that he wanted to? On the big screen, the vehicle slid off the track. The driver temporarily released the throttle, focusing on the rearview mirror to determine the position of the main track based on the reflection of the secondary track. The main track was situated above the secondary track. He glanced left and right, and at a certain moment, suddenly pressed down on the accelerator. Roar! Amidst the engine's roar, the wheels spun wildly. Sparks flew amidst the heat waves, distorting the surrounding air. In the next second, the vehicle landed on the main track, perfectly aligned with the direction of the track. Thus, even if there was a slight skid upon landing, it was inconsequential. Under the driver's steady control, the rear of the vehicle only swayed slightly before stabilizing completely. I see. It was only at this moment that the experienced driver sprang up, snatching the microphone from his companion's hand, who was momentarily stunned by the maneuver and didn't even have time to react. The driver and the vehicle had no intention of lingering on the secondary track, but aimed to leap towards the main track from the high slope. As for why he applied the brakes while rushing down the slope, it was simply to quickly adjust the vehicle's state, allowing for an immediate entry onto the main track after landing. What a brilliant idea, such bold execution, truly astonishing. Ladies and gentlemen, you may not realize how many challenges must be overcome to achieve this. Let me point out a few simple aspects. The experienced driver paused to steady his excited breathing. First, due to the slope, braking while descending makes the vehicle more prone to tipping than on flat ground. Second, while airborne, the vehicle is in an uncontrollable state, meaning that from the moment the brakes are applied, the driver must anticipate the vehicle's landing condition, factoring in that split second of loss of control. Returning to his seat, he gazed at the rapidly speeding vehicle on the main track, shaking his head in disbelief. This is absurd. I do not believe an ordinary driver could perform such a complex calculation in mere seconds. It's something only a skilled driver could achieve. Therefore, I can only attribute this to extensive training. This is muscle memory, the result of practice. It is the artistry of the track earned through countless sweat and pain. His voice echoed throughout the audience and the starting point of the race. In a sense, he was correct. The driver had experienced countless deaths in the training space. Each painful moment felt all too real. After enduring so much suffering, he had gained this level of skill. Sometimes, he himself felt it was a heavy price to pay. Chapter 211. Frustrated Ayano. The analysis from the other side was thorough, leaving the fans in the audience stunned. However, for the competitors on the track, the maneuvers of Su Chun and Xing Ming were nothing short of torture for their brains. They were just a group of drivers, not superheroes who could fly around in the air. Yet their machines looked at Xing Ming soaring through the sky with envious eyes. Such looks were enough to break the hearts of these drivers. It was as if they could only take their girlfriends to roadside stalls, while Su Chun had the entire Michelin restaurant to himself. Especially Ayano, who was momentarily stunned when Su Chun piloted Xing Ming onto the third branch track. He was also taken aback when they jumped from the third to the second branch. At that moment, from the perspective of the 3D spatial layout of the entire track, Su Chun and Xing Ming had already far surpassed him and Yi Ti. While on the second branch track, he still felt okay. Because although the second branch was easier to navigate, its longer route with numerous ups and downs made the total distance much greater than that of the first branch. Without exceptional speed and explosive power, running the second branch was not advisable. Xing Ming was just a machine with a shining emblem. How much explosive and acceleration performance could she have? That astonishing double boost was clearly not something that could be used repeatedly. Given these circumstances, Su Chun and Xing Ming choosing the second branch track would ultimately lead to being overtaken by him and Yi Ti. Just as he was thinking this, Su Chun and Xing Ming jumped from the second branch track to the first branch track right in front of him, landing ahead of him. Given the complexity of the first branch's turns, it seemed that Su Chun and Xing Ming were not far from him and Yi Ti, but in reality, they had already pulled ahead by more than 10 turns. More than 10 turns. Ayano's eyes turned red, and he grabbed a bag of chili sauce for himself. A fine layer of sweat began to bead on his forehead, uncertain if it was from the spice or the fright. Master, the situation is not good, Yi Ti said with a serious expression, his voice strained. With a gap of over 10 turns, by the time we catch up to them, they will have definitely reached the convergence point of the 3-branch tracks, and behind that is a dual carriageway. I'm not confident we can overtake them there. We can only look for an opportunity now. I know. Ayano took a deep breath. I also know we need to find an opportunity. He looked around. But what opportunities could there be? He could mimic Su Chun and jump from the first branch track to the second. but that would be no different from shooting himself in the foot. With the support of the chili sauce, Yi-Ti in his hands was like a storm machine with thunderous emblem performance, balancing speed, explosiveness, and decent cornering speed. Once entering the second branch track, his reaction advantage would be completely gone. Should he really compete with Yu Ming and Chasing Shadow, those reckless drivers, in peak speed? Ayano pondered left and right, but couldn't find any breakthrough ideas. He reviewed his choices throughout the race, realizing that the key moment to break the deadlock had already passed. That was when he chose the third branch track with Su Chun, establishing an early advantage through the 98-meter super jump. Then, utilizing the third branch track to return from the second to the first. The entire process was almost a straight line, representing the optimal solution for this race. However, his peak speed with Yi-Ti was not sufficient to leap over the 98-meter overpass. It felt as if this race was deliberately designed for Su Chun and Xing Ming. Coincidentally, Su Chun possessed an incredible double ejection technique, and the rules of this race perfectly suited the operations of Su Chun and Xing Ming. Ayano leaned back against the driver's seat, feeling disheartened. After some contemplation, he realized that there was no way to surpass Su Chun and Xing Ming before reaching the intersection. No amount of chili sauce would help. The sauce would increase his reaction speed and help him take turns faster, but it wouldn't enhance Yi-Ti's peak speed. It was too difficult to create a gap with Su Chun in cornering. This person was simply a monster. He sighed, a hint of despair flashing in his eyes. He was identified as a seed player qualified to awaken stellar energy, and if everything Su Chun did was based solely on skill and accumulated experience, he truly felt like a failure, not to mention the effort he had put in for today's race. Thinking about those days of wailing in the restroom made Ayano's nose tingle. Master, it's okay. For this race, we'll give it our all. Yi-Ti, who was lying at the front, slightly tilted her head. Under her deep purple bangs, her eyes were filled with tenderness and reassurance. Despite having prepared so much, encountering such an unbelievable opponent made it even harder for Yi-Ti. Yet, she was the one comforting him. Ayano perked up again. Yes, Yi-Ti was right. They would give it their all, and this race was not without opportunities. This was a competition that allowed unconventional tactics. Perhaps he couldn't catch up to Su Chun and Xing Ming before the three-branch tracks, but he could catch up during the dual-lane segment. At that point, the most extreme situation would be a contest of the two machine girls' stability and endurance, as well as the driver's offensive and defensive capabilities. Moreover, the outcome of this race was not as simple as just saying it didn't matter. If problems arose again, the modification team from the Night Voice Group would have reason to intervene. Deep down, he didn't want Yi-Ti to be taken over by the Night Voice Group's modification team. Even though anyone he asked would say, "Isn't the Night Team a top modification team in the area?" He had to trust the professionals. Chapter 212. Yearning for the Dream of Stars. Dear viewers, currently, Su Chun and the Star Dream contestant are leading by a significant margin. If I'm not mistaken, they will be the first to reach the convergence point of the three lanes. Once the three lanes merge into two, overtaking will become particularly challenging for the contestants. The commentator is quickly updating based on the race situation. There is not much to see with Su Chun and Star Dream. They are far ahead. The director shifts the camera to other contestants following the commentator's lead. Ayano and Night Hoof are still pursuing Star Dream, but it seems a bit difficult to catch up before reaching the two-lane section. The speed of Su Che from Star Crown Club and Yu Ming from Northern Wolf T2 seems similar, and it feels like there will be quite a battle when they enter the two-lane area. When did Yi Guanlan and the Sea which reached third place? Their cornering speed is impressive. They might catch up to Night Hoof before the two-lane section. The camera focuses on the sleek, ocean blue supercar. Yi Guanlan and the Sea which have been low profile throughout the race, yet they have quietly moved up to third place in race time. Their speed in catching up is rapid. It seems they will soon challenge Night Hoof. Yi Guanlan and the Sea which come from one of the top clubs, Glory Star, and are newly selected trainees from the T3 team. MacArthur glanced at Yi Guanlan's profile, narrowing his eyes. Previously, the Glory Star T3 team, Zhao Wang, was suppressed by the Night Hoof team. Last month, Zhao Wang's captain was expelled from Glory Star, and there are rumors that Zhao Wang is set to recruit a strong new contestant. I suspect Yi Guanlan might be the new captain that Glory Star is bringing in for Zhao Wang. It seems Yi Guanlan has the capability to compete with Ayano and might indeed be suited to lead Zhao Wang. The commentator was momentarily taken aback, glancing at the speeding Sea which with a hint of envy. If Yi Guanlan becomes the captain of Zhao Wang directly from the trainee team, it would be quite a significant leap in his career. However, I wonder what the promotion criteria are for trainees to professional players in Glory Star. MacArthur paused. Could it be that the champion of this race is determined by the outcome of this competition? He sensed that the champion would emerge from the Sea, which, Night Hoof, and Star Dream, with no other possibilities. 5 minutes later, Su Chun and Star Dream are the first to reach the convergence point of the three lanes. The originally wide track suddenly narrows, transitioning from 3 lanes to 2. The track style continues the intense rhythm of the first half of the race, with hairpin turns that can make one's scalp tingle. Feeling a bit relieved, Suchin glanced at the rearview mirror. Nighthoof's dark body shimmered in the sunlight. Although they are chasing fast, we are still leading them by at least 5 turns. What if they catch up? Star Dream asked with some concern. In this competition, she already knows where her weaknesses lie in terms of stability and endurance. If the other competitor wants to collide with her or force a pass, Suchin will definitely not allow her to compete with them. Even if they catch up, it won't matter. We still have 2 more nitrous boosts. However, there are so many curves and such a long distance ahead. Good steel should be used on the cutting edge. Just wait and see. Suchin noticed the lack of confidence in Xingming's voice and comfortingly squeezed her hand. The little cat girl hummed a couple of times before finally saying, Master? After this race, can I have some modifications to make it sturdier? Suchin raised an eyebrow. Sturdier? What do you mean? Xingming's expression darkened, and she said fiercely, I mean I want to be able to crash, to be especially strong, increase stability and endurance, and pave a way to success. If my stability had been high enough back then, even if the tires weren't great, they shouldn't have burst so easily. And even if they did burst, the rims shouldn't have worn down so quickly. Suchin looked at Xingming's soft and adorable appearance, finding it hard to associate her with such a muscular car concept. Is this your wish? He asked. Of course. Xingming nodded eagerly, looking seriously at Suchin through the rearview mirror. With enough stability and endurance, I can better protect you in case of danger. Most importantly, I don't want you to bow your head. I don't want you to make any compromises for me. This is very, very, very important. Xingming emphasized her seriousness by punching the air 3 times. Suchin fell silent at her words. Many machine girls have specific requirements for their performance. For instance, Queen prefers her performance to be enhanced in terms of speed and burst. If the modifier insists on focusing on curves and other aspects, Queen would feel distressed. This distress is not physical, but mental. It's like being a science whiz, but being forced to study humanities. Every class feels like reading a foreign language, and every exam is a torment. She could fill out her answers in the science exam and leave half an hour early. Yet in the humanities exam, she could only stare at the empty paper, wanting to cry. Suchin had never heard of Xingming's wishes before. It wasn't that he ignored her thoughts. Long ago, he had asked her which performance aspects she wanted to enhance, and her answer was that as long as he thought it was okay, any performance enhancement would do. Initially, Suchin thought that Xingming, being a balanced performance model, wouldn't he have a strong desire for any particular aspect like other machine girls. It was only now that he understood that Xingming probably didn't have that concept. Queen, in her lightning-fast speed, seeks greater bursts and ultimate velocity to break through herself. Meanwhile, Xingming, through these experiences, has developed a desire to improve her stability and endurance, simply to protect him. Due to stability and endurance issues, I can only give way to the night hoof. Xingming is unwilling. She doesn't want to compromise, especially since her driver clearly has the skills. I understand now. Suchin took a deep breath. Do you want to become a dump truck? Meow? Xingming tilted her head. Confused. It means no matter who is in front, behind, or on the sides, just crash through them all. Xingming imagined that scene, her eyes growing brighter. Meow? At this moment, in the future Suchin depicted, she seemed to have finally found what she longed for. Master, just smash them all, meow. I want this. Meow? Chapter 213. The Advancing Sea Monster. Meanwhile, Suchin was driving while contemplating the modification plan for Xingming. Ayano, on the other hand, was closely pursuing the night hoof. As expected, she still couldn't catch up. Ayano's eyes darkened slightly, her voice tinged with reluctance. The track had now turned into a 2-lane road, and based on Suchin's displayed skills and defensive capabilities from the last race, overtaking would be very difficult. However, it wasn't without solutions. Night hoof. There are still 3 bends ahead. Let's stay close to Xingming's slipstream. Ayano methodically devised her subsequent tactics. Suddenly, a gurgling sound came from her stomach. This sound made both Ayano and the night hoof's faces turn pale. Master, please hold on. Ayano forced herself to remain calm. I am rigorously trained, so it's generally impossible for it to happen unless I can't hold it in, but usually, I can manage. The night hoof was confused by Ayano's words and didn't respond for a while. Ayano continued, and night hoof, don't forget. I've sworn to you that if that day really comes, just open the window. Night hoof. Master, I understand, you don't need to repeat it. Ayano cleared her throat, tightened a certain muscle, her expression gradually becoming serious, and pulled the topic back. Although I prefer drinking to hot sauce, I must admit that hot sauce is indeed more effective than alcohol. The first layer of stimulation from hot sauce on endorphins is the pain brought by the spiciness. The second layer, perhaps something Chin Xin didn't consider, is. As she spoke, Ayano refilled her hot sauce packet, saying while taking a sip. The second layer is that the intense peristalsis of the intestines can also bring pain. The feeling of wanting to rush is also a kind of suffering. When these 3 types of pain occur simultaneously, It forms a complete chain for the production of endorphins, lasting a long time. The night hoof was about to burst. However, as Ayano's machine girl, having spent every day with Ayano, she understood that her master was forced into this situation. She expressed her understanding and tolerance. But now she was more eager to hear Ayano's next strategy. What I want to say is, even if we don't have an unconventional collision with Xingming, we still have the retractable wing as our trump card. In a moment, we will latch onto the slipstream of Star Dream, refraining from using the adjustable tail wing to attempt overtaking in the corners continuously. If we can get past, that would be even better. If not, it will create an illusion for Su Chun that we only have these offensive tactics. When Su Chun has gotten used to our attacks and thinks we are out of options, we will strike. Under the intense pressure, Ayano's smile also appeared somewhat sinister. Full of cunning, we will suddenly use the adjustable tail wing to enhance our cornering speed, completing the overtaking maneuver in the last bend before entering the single-lane section. At that point, it will be difficult for Su Chun to overtake with Star Dream. Even if he still has the ability for a second boost, he must confront us to overtake in the single lane. Based on intelligence, Star Dream's endurance and stability are not as good as ours, so once a confrontation occurs, they will undoubtedly lose. Night Hoof's eyes flashed with a cold gleam upon hearing Ayano's plan. What a clever strategy, truly worthy of being her master. It would be even better if she didn't always make disparaging remarks about wanting to open windows to the outside world. That really damages her image. What do you think, Night Hoof? Ayano said with a slight smile, just like the tactics Su Chun used against us in the last race. We will first use the same routine to lull him into a false sense of security, and at the last moment, exploit our cognitive inertia for a decisive strike. Master, brilliant. Night Hoof gave a thumbs up. Ayano fixed her gaze on the increasingly close Star Dream, chuckling to herself. Su Chun is indeed an imaginative driver. But thinking is not solely Su Chun's domain. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Today, he will be defeated by his own methods. As for why we aim to avoid unconventional confrontations, it is not out of fear, but for other reasons. The track for the Star Building City race is not long. 20 minutes have passed, and the race has entered its second half. Ayano has finally closed the gap on the leading Su Chun and Star Dream. Night Hoof's speed is impressive. Even though Su Chun and Star Dream have established an advantage in the secondary lane, they are still being caught up. On the big screen, Night Hoof has entered the slipstream area of Star Dream, like a hidden female leopard waiting for the right moment to strike. The commentator remarked, Ayano and Night Hoof's abilities are indeed strong, but overtaking in a dual lane is probably not that easy. As he spoke, Night Hoof suddenly broke away from the slipstream zone and launched the first attack in the bend. The two machines glided into the corner amidst the roar of engines. With Night Hoof attempting to use a stronger burst to end the cornering and claim the line early, but was squeezed to the outer lane by Su Chun's pendulum drift, ultimately failing to overtake, and the two machines returned to their previous positions. Su Chun's defensive skills remain as strong as ever. The commentator noted, both Su Chun and Ayano are very clever competitors. To determine the winner in the dual lane, several probing attempts will be necessary. For example, they might try to mislead each other's positions with driving skills, and once Su Chun shows a weakness, Ayano will immediately seize the opportunity to overtake with Night Hoof. Today, Night Hoof's aggression doesn't seem as strong, MacArthur said with some confusion. In fact, the Night Hoof's performance is fully capable of unconventional confrontation with the Star Dream. However, before he could finish, the bottom left corner of the large screen suddenly displayed half of a cerulean vehicle. It's the siren, someone exclaimed. The siren has caught up. When did this happen? On the screen, the siren seemed to be moving much faster than before. She was approaching the Night Hoof, which was being intercepted by the Star Dream, at a speed almost indistinguishable to the naked eye. I understand, MacArthur exclaimed. Ayano is not confronting Su Chun because he is wary of Yi Guanlan and the siren. He is afraid that by confronting Su Chun, he would be setting up a trap for Yi Guanlan and the siren. But wasn't Yi Guanlan quite behind before? How could he suddenly speed up and catch up? Could it be that the previous speed was not the siren's peak? Someone looked puzzled. Exactly. MacArthur nodded. If I'm not mistaken, Yi Guanlan did not fully utilize the siren's performance in the first half of the track. But why? Came the question. Did he deliberately hold back? Of course not. MacArthur chuckled. If Yi Guanlan had the capability to maintain the lead, he naturally wouldn't just hand over the first position. It's precisely because the siren's performance makes it difficult to secure the first position that he chose not to fight for it. What we're seeing now, with Su Chun and Ayano competing, is exactly what Yi Guanlan wants. His goal is to create a conflict between the first and second positions. And he and the siren are like hunters hidden in the shadows, ready to take advantage when the clams and the snipe fight. At this point, MacArthur couldn't help but applaud. Another very clever opponent, who understands how to leverage strengths and avoid weaknesses. The struggle between the Star Dream and the Night Hoof had become very tense. The Siren's sudden appearance would force the first and second positions to determine the winner. As a Storm Star emblem mecha, the Siren's stability and cornering performance are unmatched by the other two mechas. "Oh Siren," MacArthur murmured. "This time you really have to show your fangs." Chapter 214. Synchronizing with the crane, Ayano didn't know whether the Siren had shown its fangs. He only knew that he needed a relatively stable environment to drive the Night Hoof. Any unstable collision could lead to unpredictable consequences. He tightened his muscles in that area, making them grip tightly together, forming an indestructible flesh and blood barrier. As for the Siren's pursuit, Ayano saw it. Now it was a two-lane road. As long as he controlled the rhythm of his confrontation with Su Chun, the Siren wouldn't have a chance to overtake. Once he passed Su Chun, the Siren would have to surpass the Star Dream before it could confront the Night Hoof. But Su Chun was not an opponent to be easily dealt with. Therefore, what he needed to do now was to outsmart and overtake Su Chun and the Star Dream to secure the first position. At that point, Yi Guanlan and the Siren would undoubtedly be anxious, but that would have nothing to do with him as the champion. The anxious Yi Guanlan and the formidable Su Chun would get into a fierce competition, while he simply needed to bring his Night Hoof and soon-to-be loosened muscles to claim the championship trophy without any unconventional confrontations. Naturally, the first thing after crossing the finish line would be a trip to the restroom. Yi Guanlan's thoughts were predicted by MacArthur. He wanted Su Chun and Ayano to clash first, then take advantage of their struggle to overtake them with the Siren. This wasn't the first time he had done something like this. However, he would only use the Siren on tracks with many challenging curves. On other types of tracks, the Siren's high maneuverability and cornering speed were hard to exploit. Fortunately, as the scale of competitions grew, from city championships to the king of racing and then provincial qualifiers, the difficulty and number of curves only increased, along with the addition of various special terrains. Yet, he clearly wasn't at the stage of challenging special terrains yet. The ever-increasing curves and their difficulty were enough to make him and the Siren quite popular. Thus, a common feature of the races he participated in was that when there were many straight tracks at the start, he generally lagged behind in the rankings. But as the challenging curves appeared, his position would steadily improve. And as the difficulty of the curves increased in the latter half of the race, when all competitors felt the strain and had to slow down their machines, he would silently steer the Siren into the top ranks. By the time those competitors thought about targeting him, it was often too late. The Siren's cornering performance made her very agile, unafraid of trembling. After all, her balanced stability meant she wouldn't suffer in unconventional confrontations. Of course, if given a choice, Yi Guanlan would prefer to avoid unconventional confrontations altogether, because no matter how tough the machine was, there was always a risk of injury in such situations. Su Chun, Yi Guanlan, and Ayano all had their own hidden agendas, plotting against each other with their respective plans. Yet, no one noticed that not far behind them, two competitors were also gradually forming a gap with the others. Those were Chasing Shadow and Wind Crane. Through the car window, the two machines frequently exchanged glances, unbeknownst to Su Che and Yu Ming. The two machines were communicating intensely through a special frequency. Chasing Shadow, hey, big but lady, you've made quite a bit of progress lately, huh? Your peak speed has increased so much. You can barely keep up with me now. Wind Crane, heh, underdeveloped bean sprout. I could always catch up to you. Try calling me big but lady again. You might just remember how you got elbowed off the track before. Chasing Shadow, what did you say? You call me underdeveloped and a bean sprout. Wind Crane, isn't that the truth? Just look at your barren land. I suspect your driver isn't even getting enough to eat with you around. Chasing Shadow, you're dead meat. Wind Crane, come on, if you have the guts. Crash into me. Originally, Yu Ming was driving well, feeling that with peak speed, overtaking Wind Crane wasn't impossible. As for the three freaks ahead, he couldn't catch up. Not at all. The Night Hoof's explosive power was too strong. The Star Dream couldn't be dealt with using common sense. As for the sea monster, it was as slippery as an eel. Competing against this machine felt like boiling a frog in warm water. Before he even realized what was happening, she was already ahead. Yu Ming was not blindly arrogant. He understood the gap between himself and the three big shots in front. But Su Che was different. Su Che was on the same level as him. How could he let Su Che overtake him? Just as he thought this, a low growl filled with suppressed rage came from ahead. Yu Ming shivered at the shout and instinctively stood at attention. What is going on? Let me through. The voice growled. Yu Ming glanced at the side where Feng He was. Although Feng He was indeed a Thunderstar machine, it was unclear whether it was due to talent or modifications by Su Che, but this machine's stability was higher than that of a typical Thunderstar machine, and it seemed to have some hidden attributes. This machine was also incredibly tough. He remembered the last time, when Chasing Shadow collided with Feng He's rear. Feng He didn't even flinch, while Chasing Shadow ended up with a headache for 3 days. Calm down, Chasing Shadow. We have a peak speed advantage. There's no need to confront them, Yu Ming thought. Why would he bother if he knew he couldn't win? He wasn't foolish. I don't care. Isn't our goal to be first? No. What about your racing glory? My chasing shadow. My racing glory? Chasing shadow huffed, puffing her not-so-high chest. That has to prove I'm tougher than her. Today, if she dares to insult me, tomorrow she'll dare to criticize me even more. Yu Ming realized that chasing shadow and Feng He had already had an argument. It was clear that chasing shadow was determined to settle the score today. Even though he felt sorry for her and knew she would be hurt, as a qualified driver, he had to consider the machine's feelings. He gritted his teeth and, at the moment of the turn, drove chasing shadow close to Feng He, preparing for a hard push. But just then, with a click, the rear wing popped out from Feng He's back, and the two machines, which were almost side by side, suddenly created a gap. What made Yu Ming's scalp tingle was that he saw a bit of stardust drifting from Feng He's tires. Though the stardust was faint, it was gradually intensifying. He licked his dry lips and widened his eyes. Phase 1 synchronization. Chasing shadow was stunned, mumbling to herself, is Feng He entering Phase 1 synchronization? Did I really fire her up? Is she a masochist? No one could answer the questions of chasing shadow and Yu Ming. As Feng He's speed was steadily increasing, getting faster and faster, she surged ahead, charging towards the other three contestants with unstoppable momentum. The race was nearing its end. Continuous setbacks had caused Su Che to lose his composure. In the midst of guilt and fear for the future, a strong sense of unwillingness and anger was building up inside him. If he lost this race, Su Lin would replace Feng He. With James's modified core and Kino's special training, after 3 simulated races, Su Che originally thought that even if he couldn't win the championship, he could at least fight for a spot in the top 3. But the current situation was a wake-up call. Forget about the championship. Even squeezing into the top 3 seemed unlikely. The finish line was getting closer and closer. Time and opportunities are running out. Is there really no chance left? Su Che's gaze slightly lowered. His grip on the steering wheel tightened fiercely. He was unwilling. He truly was not willing. I don't want to disappoint Master James. His eyes were bloodshot, fixated on the racetrack ahead. I also don't want to let down my mentor's efforts. I am no longer that boy who could only cower in the back and cry when scolded. Most importantly, Su Che took a deep breath. His voice hoarse. I don't want to be separated from you. Xiao Che looked at Feng He with infinite tenderness. Completely devoid of the fierceness from their earlier argument with another competitor. She clearly understood what this race meant for Su Che. We want to be separated, she whispered softly, as if stating an established fact. At this moment, their resonance reached a frenzied peak. There was a bright spark flickering in Feng He's eyes. Their gazes met in the rearview mirror, like embers igniting. No one can tear us apart. Stardust gathered into light, covering the racetrack behind them. The first phase of resonance belonging to Su Che and Feng He was activated. Chapter 221. The Final Clash, First Phase Resonance. Brother Xiao yelled. Su Che and Feng He have entered the first phase resonance state. Now there are 2 mech girls in the race who have achieved first phase resonance. MacArthur squinted his eyes. The situation has become interesting. Less than 10 kilometers to the single lane, which is just a matter of 1 or 2 minutes for these mech girls. 1 or 2 minutes is incredibly short. This means the final clash is about to unfold. Throughout the race, Su Chen's understanding of the track and his handling of various challenges have been nothing short of genius. From the performance of the mech girls, Xingming's cornering ability ranks among the top 3 for this race. Her only weakness is insufficient acceleration and a peak speed that cannot compete with Yi Ti and Zhue Ying. Feng He is chasing the Sea Demon. Are we about to witness a confrontation between the Sea Demon and Feng He before Yi Ti and Xingming clash? Brother Xiao Yi's commentary echoed in the audience. The Sea Demon had not created much distance from Feng He, just 4 corners apart. In other races, 4 corners might indicate a huge gap, but in this race, the corners are very dense, especially as they enter the final stage where there are basically no straightaways. Even if the track designer intentionally left some buffer space for the competitors, those buffer sections are at least gentle curves. Entering the first phase resonance, Feng He is visibly closing in on the Sea Demon. Yi Guanlan, who was originally confident and ready to reap the benefits, is now completely stunned. He frequently glanced at the rearview mirror, his expression grim. How did they suddenly enter the first phase resonance? It's neither early nor late, but right now, the stability of the Sea Demon has advantages over Yi Ti and Xingming. However, it has no advantage over Feng He, originally relying on cornering speed to shake off Feng He. Now Feng He has entered a phase of synchronized performance. With its high explosive capabilities, the cornering peak speed is extremely high, and overall cornering speed has already surpassed that of the Sea Demon. It is difficult for Feng He to overtake the Sea Demon normally. However, at this moment, Yi Guanlan does not want to conflict with Feng He and cannot let Feng He pass. He also cannot immediately intervene in the duel between Su Chun and Ayano. Caught between a rock and a hard place, this old fox finds himself in a dilemma. Master, the situation is not good. What should we do now? The voice of the Sea Demon was a bit anxious. She did not expect Feng He to enter a synchronized state. which is a condition that can only be activated when the beliefs of the mech and the pilot are highly aligned. Although both Shi and Yi Guanlan aim to break records and win the championship, they do not feel much pressure for today's race. The assessment given to Yi Guanlan by the Radiant Star is merely a formality. He is already set to become the captain of Radiant Star T3. This race might only slightly affect Yi Guanlan's salary for the month, and nothing more. It's not as if losing the race would lead to dire consequences. The Sea Demon finds it difficult to synchronize with Yi Guanlan, and the feeling is mutual. Don't worry, Yi Guanlan said, frowning. First, we need to deal with Su Chun and Feng He. As soon as he finished speaking, the sharp-edged Thunder Star emblem mech, wrapped in starlight and gale, was already pursuing them, attempting to seize the inner lane and the best entry point into the corner. If Feng He managed to take it, the Sea Demon would be forced to the outer lane. Cornering on the outer lane without losing speed could easily lead to a crash into the guardrail. However, there are no guardrails on the current track. The only way to avoid sliding off the track is to slow down. How could I let you pass so easily? Yi Guanlan gritted his teeth. When it comes to defensive capabilities, he is also formidable. Bang! A dull sound echoed, followed by the Sea Demon's body shaking violently and uncontrollably veering to the side. Yi Guanlan broke into a cold sweat, but reacted quickly enough to bring the Sea Demon back from the brink of sliding off the track. However, in that moment, Feng He had successfully overtaken and moved ahead of both him and the Sea Demon. No, Yi Guanlan was taken aback. The Sea Demon's stability is as high as 81. Even if Feng He's stability is indeed slightly better, that small advantage shouldn't have been enough to directly push the Sea Demon aside. At the moment of impact, Yi Guanlan felt the Sea Demon lose control instantly, as if it had been struck head-on by a rampaging cow. Unfortunately, Yi Guanlan could not see Feng He's performance panel. If he could, he might not have been so shocked. Entering a phase of synchronization, compared to the peak speed increase of 5 from Xingming, Feng He's speed enhancement was not significant. Only a 3-point increase in explosive performance, but it would enhance its collision capability by 5 points. The improvement in collision capability is almost ineffective for mechs with low stability. The effect of a collision must be built on a foundation of high stability, otherwise, it would just be like an egg hitting a rock. And Feng He happens to be a very robust mech. The Sea Demon's stability is already a notch below that of Feng He. Currently, with a phase of synchronized performance enhancement, she is naturally knocked aside by the forceful impact. The sea monster's endurance is not high, and after being hit, its endurance has decreased significantly, leaving both Yi Guanlan and the sea monster in a precarious state. Master, what should we do now? The sea monster asks, its lips trembling. This is a good question. Yi Guanlan feels frustrated. If it weren't for the ongoing competition, he would have lit a cigarette. In the end, he can only shake his head and sigh. Let's just focus on finishing. He still has opportunities to overtake. But he doesn't want the sea monster to be hit again. Anyone can see that the current situation is like a bull charging forward. Whoever stands in the way gets knocked down. They could still break the record with their performance, albeit only placing fourth, with 4 competitors breaking the record. However, if they continue to struggle and get hit again, their endurance might run out, and they may not finish the race at all. Meanwhile, Su Che and the Forceful Impact have effectively dealt with Yi Guanlan and the Sea Monster. The Forceful One continues to chase after the Night Hoof and Star Dream. However, chasing Night Hoof and Star Dream is clearly not as simple as chasing the Sea Monster. The Sea Monster controls the speed, while Night Hoof maintains its distance. Su Che and the Forceful One are giving it their all, yet they find it difficult to close the gap with Night Hoof. At this point, Su Che knows that with all cards on the table, no matter how hard he tries, he cannot secure second place and can only do his best to hold on to third, unless one of the machine girls, Night Hoof or Star Dream, goes off the track. But since they are all professional drivers, this scenario is a bit too idealistic. The dual-lane track has only 1 kilometer left before transitioning to the single-lane section known as the Champion's Path. After multiple attempts, Ayano stops pretending and prepares to make a final breakthrough with Night Hoof. It's about time. He gazes at the tail lights of Star Dream, murmuring to himself. Just like the last provincial qualifier, Su Chen's defense remains formidable. However, after more than 10 attempts, it seems he has exhausted all efforts. And Su Chun has surely become accustomed to his attacks. Now, as soon as he slightly drives Night Hoof forward, Su Chun immediately reacts with Star Dream, almost as if learning to respond instinctively. It looks like he and Night Hoof have run out of tricks, with even Night Hoof feeling frustrated by Su Chen's defense. But this is exactly what Ayano wants to see. Amid the roar of the engine, a sharp glint flashes in his eyes. This is the last chance. It's time to reclaim everything that belongs to him. These past few days have not been good. There are 2 bugs, the sea monster's advantage in curves and stability, which I have corrected from previous writings. The chapter numbering has a bug. Today is correct. There are reader doubts about Star Dream being caught up by Night Hoof, which is normal, and I will explain the reasons later. Please show your support. Thank you. Chapter 222. Have you ever quit drugs? Dear audience, there is less than 1 kilometer left until the champion's path. Currently, the rankings on the field are Su Chun, Xingmeng, Ayano, Su Che, Fenghe, Yiguan, Lan Haiyao, and Yu Ming. As we all know, once entering a single-lane track, it's nearly impossible to overtake. Baoga's seemingly calm tone is filled with excitement and anticipation. The final kilometer is less than 20 seconds for the competitors. Will there be any changes in the rankings during these 20 seconds? If Su Chun and Xingming can hold their position for these 20 seconds, they will be crowned champions. If Su Che and Fenghe manage to hold on, they will secure 3rd place. What does Mr. MacArthur think about this? MacArthur took the microphone, smiled without speaking, and after a while, slowly said, "Miracles are the treasures of the brave. We can expect anything to happen." He does not believe that Su Chun and Xingming's victory is guaranteed, as Ayano has repeatedly tested them in the same way, which is quite unusual. When a person realizes that a particular way of thinking cannot solve a problem, a normal person would switch to a different approach. Only a fool who lacks adaptability would cling to one way of thinking, continuously trying and failing. As the captain of the Night Hoof team, how could Ayano be such a fool? Therefore, there is only one reason. This is intentional on Ayano's part. From a bird's eye view, it is easy to see Ayano's deliberate probing. However, for Su Chun and Xingming, who are highly focused on the track during the competition, they may not notice these subtleties. Perhaps to them, Ayano is merely a challenger who keeps trying to overtake but has not succeeded. With each successful defense, Su Chun and Xingming's vigilance may decrease slightly, and they may become more familiar with Ayano's attacking methods. This familiarity could be fatal, a trap. Behind the scenes, MacArthur and Baoga have already discussed this issue. Now, putting down the microphone, Baoga slyly approached. "So, do you think Ayano and the Night Hoof will definitely launch a fatal attack in the single lane, and that Su Chun and Xingming will likely be unable to defend against it?" "I never said that," MacArthur replied, his gaze deep. "Have you noticed something? In this race, Fenghe has used the adjustable wing modification core, while Night Hoof hasn't used it, based on the press conference of the Voice of the Night. She must have installed the adjustable wing modification core created by the Night Voice Modification Group, perhaps as a trump card for the final use. As the first person to use the adjustable wing modification core, Su Chun has not used it in this race with his mech. Perhaps he upgraded his mech to use a better modification core. Or maybe he has it, but is deliberately not using it." Baoga's eyes widened at this. "Hey, don't say that. What on earth is that fool Ayano doing?" In the VIP seating of the Night Voice, Qin Xian's face was grim, his fingers tightly gripping the armrest. If he didn't break through soon, the championship of this competition would be completely out of his reach. To ensure Ayano's victory, Night Voice had invested substantial resources to enhance Ayano's reaction ability. Most importantly, Ayano and Yi Ti represented the image of the Night Voice group at this moment. After a previous defeat, the Night Voice group desperately needed Ayano to regain their honor. Qin Xian murmured to himself, and just as he finished speaking, he saw Yi Ti finally make a move on the big screen. At this moment, there was only one last series of 3 sharp turns left before entering the final stretch towards the championship lane. The turn was right in front of them. This was the ultimate battlefield before the single-track lane. The asphalt at the apex of the turn appeared particularly dark due to countless tire friction. Su Chen's calm gaze occasionally glanced at the rearview mirror. He was waiting for Ayano's attack. Countless tests and failures had made this futile behavior seem abnormal for a professional driver. However, they should be reaching their limit. Su Chen murmured, applying more pressure on the steering wheel and his belief in Xingming. The turn indicator flashed in his peripheral vision. Now's the time. In Yi Ti's cockpit, a fierce glint flashed in Ayano's eyes. The previous feints had all been preparing for this moment of full attack, about to explode. He slammed the steering wheel, and Yi Ti's black front end cut sharply towards the inside line, just like the previous dozens of tests. It was the same tactic again. How could this possibly affect Xingming? Xingming shook her head and sighed, thinking that Yi Ti and her driver were stubbornly charging forward without adapting. Having already sustained significant damage, yet still failing to change tactics. It was a bit foolish. Xingming had always felt she wasn't very clever. Today, she encountered an opponent who seemed even less clever than her, which made her a bit happy. Unconsciously, her soft cat ears and tail perked up slightly, swaying joyfully in a way that wouldn't obstruct Su Chen's view. Su Chen's gaze sharpened, almost reflexively maneuvering Xingming slightly to the right to block the inside line. However, at the very moment Xingming's body shifted, crunch, Ayano's lips curled into a triumphant smirk. He swiftly flicked his right hand on the paddle shifter. Yi Ti's brake lights flickered ominously. The powerful braking force caused the rear wheels to momentarily lock up, the rear of the car swaying slightly, abruptly halting its momentum towards the inside line. Squeak. Tire smoke billowed on the track. For dark tire marks appeared on the already dark asphalt. A feint. The real killing move followed closely. Almost simultaneously with the braking, Ayano's left hand swiftly pressed an inconspicuous blue button on the inside of the steering wheel. Buzz. A deep, mechanical hum emanated from the rear of ET. Suddenly, a sharply designed, signature retractable rear wing with the Night Voice emblem sprang out, expanding to the sides. The enormous carbon fiber wing glistened coldly under the sunlight, providing ET with astonishing downforce at that moment. The downward pressure allowed Ayano to have more maneuverability while cornering. He could confidently accelerate to increase the cornering speed of the Night Hoof. The adjustable rear wing. The Night Hoof was equipped with an adjustable rear wing. The roar of Brother Xiao instantly ignited the crowd. MacArthur had guessed it. The Night Hoof indeed installed the adjustable rear wing modification core. Throughout the race, it was the first time Ayano used the adjustable rear wing modification core. He was not only shocked by the endurance of these competitors. That was an adjustable rear wing modification core, and to secure victory, they managed to hold back such a trump card until the last moment? That was quite impressive. Had they ever been through tough times? But Brother Xiao and MacArthur were unaware. Ayano had his reasons for not using the adjustable rear wing modification core in the previous races. Because in practical tests, this modification core could only be used stably 10 times. After 10 uses, whether it would function properly again would be left to fate. The fortunate part was that if the adjustable rear wing modification core malfunctioned, it wouldn't just pop up randomly. Otherwise, the race would be impossible to run. To ensure he had a usable trump card, Ayano had to keep it hidden. No wonder. In the VIP seats of the Night Voice, Chin Xian saw Ayano finally using the adjustable rear wing modification core, and a glimmer of realization and appreciation flashed in her eyes. I misjudged Ayano. He used repeated probing to confuse his opponent and revealed his trump card at the last moment, right? Truly worthy of being the captain of the Night Hoof. She felt that Ayano had gone this far. Su Chun and Xing Ming should yield the championship now, right? On the track, the Night Hoof, benefiting from the extra downforce, saw a dramatic increase in tire grip. The engine roared, maintaining an astonishing stability as it aggressively hugged the outside line, sharply increasing cornering speed. Ayano's goal was extremely clear, to use the higher exit speed from the outside to overtake at the apex. It seemed he was about to achieve it. The Night Hoof caught up with Xing Ming. Oh no, Xing Ming exclaimed in fear. Mixed with a dismissive chuckle, Su Chen commented, finally can't hold back, huh? What a pity. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. The performance was really poor. At the critical moment, his voice remained steady and powerful. He had already anticipated Ayano's final move. Blocking the inside line was itself a bait. Don't shout, master, Su Chen said, pinching Xing Ming's thigh playfully. The girl was completely immersed in her own world and didn't even hear what he said. The scenery outside twisted into a fragmented oil painting as they sped by. The cold wind slammed against the window, producing a sharp howl. Click. Su Chun's right foot quickly performed a toe-to-heel maneuver between the accelerator and brake. His left foot lightly tapped the clutch while his right hand swiftly corrected the steering before sharply cutting to the left. This series of actions was smooth and rapid. Like a machine on the operating table, the body of the vehicle, like it possesses life, was about to be flung outward when it was forcefully pulled back. Adjusting its stance by utilizing the slight drift of the rear, it was no longer an awkward lateral block, but precisely positioned just outside the path of the oncoming vehicle. It appeared like a pre-calculated white barrier, perfectly placed in the acceleration route. What? Ayano's smile froze instantly, her pupils dilating. She never expected the reaction and control of her opponent to be this swift, with predictions that were chillingly accurate. Her planned overtaking route was unexpectedly blocked. Su Chen wasn't fooled. But how could this be? She had feigned attacks so many times. Why didn't her opponent show even a slight opening? With the inner line abandoned and the outer line sealed, anger and frustration overwhelmed Ayano's rationality. Push her aside, she said, tension etched on her face. Bloodshot eyes continuing to press the accelerator. The roar of the engine grew increasingly intense, filled with a surge of battle spirit. Utilizing the downforce from the adjustable rear wing and higher cornering speed, the vehicle charged like a roaring black beast towards the rear side of her opponent's vehicle. Ayano relied on the superior stability of her vehicle to force a way through. Master, are you sure about this? Came a voice, slightly trembling. The calm response was from Ayano. I can hold it in, really. If I can't, I'll open the window early. Her words cut off abruptly as the two vehicles were about to collide. Suddenly, there was a familiar mechanical sound, but this time it came from the white vehicle. A more intricately designed adjustable rear wing, shimmering with a faint starry glow, unfolded like an angel's wings from the rear of the vehicle. The angle adjusted to the optimal attack position upon deployment, stabilizing the body while providing immense downforce. The vehicle also had it. Su Chun and the vehicle utilized the modification core for the adjustable rear wing. The crowd erupted in astonishment, having hidden this until now. Cunning foxes. All of them. Someone exclaimed, and another relaxed back in their seat, a joyful smile on their face. This race was exhilarating. The audience was in an uproar. Although they knew Su Chun might have the modification core, throughout the race, he had not used it against any opponent. Because he hadn't utilized it. They speculated he hadn't installed such a core this time. But in this moment, they witnessed the wings rising from the rear of the vehicle. Hiding. They were all hiding. Both vehicles' wings provided downforce, allowing the tires to grip the ground firmly. The anticipated collision did not spiral out of control. The front of Ayano's vehicle slightly pressed against the rear side of her opponent's vehicle, causing only a minor tremor, with no change in the trajectory. Su Chen's arm was as steady as a rock, and his gaze remained calm. All of this occurred in the blink of an eye. The countless operational details and the clash of wits existed merely within seconds. The first hairpin turn approached in an instant. Two racing machines, one black and one white, with their wings spread like ground-hugging raptors, sliced through the apex with astonishing speed. Tires grazed the edge of the track, kicking up clouds of white smoke. The distance between them closed in infinitely, yet an invisible wall seemed to separate them, preventing either side from truly overtaking the other. Like two infinitely extending parallel lines that would never intersect. No, there was still a chance. Ayano stared intently at the Star Dream, which was almost parallel to the Night Hoof. Through the car window, he exchanged a brief glance with Su Chun, whose calm eyes met his. In those cold, indifferent eyes, he saw confidence and a sense of victory. No, Ayano's pupils dilated. He remembered. Why was Su Chun so unafraid? Why was there not a hint of nervousness at this moment? The two racing machines had not yet fully exited the turn, and their bodies were still not corrected. The roar of the engine thundered in Ayano's ears. The rear of the Star Dream emitted a fiery red flame, forcefully correcting its out-of-control state in a brutish manner. Instantly stabilizing its body, it shot out towards the outside of the turn like a sharp sword, diagonally darting ahead of Ayano and the Night Hoof. At the same time, it burst out of the apex, completing the turn. There were still two hairpin turns ahead, but Ayano's heart had completely cooled. The final contest, where Night Hoof could barely touch the tail of the Star Dream, was already the ultimate limit. All plans had been seen through. All calculations had been toyed with. His hope of claiming the championship with Night Hoof was extinguished like a candle in a storm. And that man, he was just slightly dusted at the hem of his clothing. Chapter 224. Doubt they crossed the finish line. Su Chun and Star Dream crossed the finish line. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce that the champion of this provincial preliminary competition is Su Chun, Star Dream. On the last stretch of the single-lane track known as the Champion's Path, the dazzling white body of Star Dream sped past the finish line. A few seconds later, Ayano and Night Hoof finally arrived. The last segment of the Champion's Path still had many turns, but once Su Chun used the adjustable wing modification core, Ayano found it very difficult to catch up to Star Dream. Although the distance between the two racing machines could gradually close, the speed was akin to a tortoise crawling. Especially since his adjustable wing modification core could only be used 10 times. Once those 10 uses were exhausted, Night Hoof's progress in chasing Star Dream would slow even further. He realized that it would be impossible to catch up to Su Chun and Star Dream and bump them out of the way. Ultimately, Ayano gave up. He could only console himself that if a severe collision were to occur, it would not only be an easy injury for Night Hoof. Moreover, it's not good for him either. His intestines are in a very unstable state and could erupt at any moment. The third to cross the finish line were Su Che and Feng He, followed by the not-so-happy-looking Yi Guanlan and Hai Yao, and then Yu Ming and Zhu Ying. These 5 contestants made up the T0 and T1 teams of this competition, while the other drivers had a significant gap compared to them. Su Chun executed a drift and brought Xingming directly to the pit stop. He opened the car door, stepped out from the pale tire smoke, took a deep breath of the cool air on the track, squinted his eyes to feel the sunlight on his body, and listened to the cheers of thousands of spectators echoing around the circuit. Regardless of whether those cheers were all for him, he certainly enjoyed the process more than being an unnoticed tuner. The logistics machine girl immediately rushed forward to cool down Xingming's hot body. After a moment, a weak voice rang in Su Chen's ear. "Master, I need to pee." Su Chun turned around and saw the little cat girl, already back in machine girl form. With a flushed face, squeezing her thighs together. The new modification core was still too authoritative. Xingming would never have shown such an embarrassed expression before. What a sight. "Go ahead, but don't hold it in," he said, patting Xingming's head. However, Xingming bit her lip and said pitifully, I don't know where the bathroom is. Master, can you come with me?" The logistics machine girl volunteered. "I can accompany Miss Xingming." "No." Xingming's face turned even redder as she shook her head repeatedly, crossing her arms over her chest. If the logistics machine girl went with her, her secret would be discovered. It was fine at home. Queen's sister was one of her own, and Masta was her close companion. But outside, that would be social death. The logistics machine girl was a bit confused, not understanding why a simple trip to the bathroom required the driver to accompany her. Was this the reason for their high synchronization? Sticking together 24 hours a day? Even for something as private as using the bathroom? No wonder. The logistics machine girl couldn't help but look at Xing Ming with a hint of envy. Before becoming a logistics machine girl, she was also a regular racing machine girl. However, due to her driver treating her poorly and her average performance showing no prospects, she chose to become a logistics machine girl after being eliminated. Xing Ming was a specialized cat girl machine girl with a Radiant Star emblem, and among logistics machine girls, those with Radiant Star emblems were the most numerous due to their inadequate performance and low growth potential, while cat girl specialized machine girls were the least capable in this category. A typical case of trading performance for looks. Yet now, this Radiant Star emblem cat girl specialized machine girl stood on the champion's stage. This was undoubtedly the result of her driver's careful nurturing. If only she had a driver who treated her so well. The logistics machine girl couldn't help but smile bitterly at this thought. Having dreams is good, but it's better not to stray too far from reality. Otherwise, it becomes delusion. I'll take her. Just tell me the specific location, Su Chen said, explaining awkwardly. My machine girl is directionally challenged and can't find her way. If I don't go with her, she might get lost. Over there. The logistics assistant pointed to an employee passage directly opposite the parking area. Just turn right inside, and you'll see the sign. Follow the sign, and you'll find the restrooms designated for the assistants and drivers, which are separate, so don't get them mixed up. She seemed a bit puzzled. Regardless of whether someone has a poor sense of direction, isn't it enough to have someone guide you? Why does it have to be the driver? But she didn't want to ask too many questions. Su Chen nodded and led Xingming towards the employee passage. Just as they stepped in, Ayano rushed to the logistics assistant, accompanied by Yi Ti, looking frantic. Excuse me, where's the restroom? I really can't hold it anymore. His face was flushed, clutching his stomach, with veins bulging on his forehead. He couldn't understand why it felt so intense. During the race, it hadn't seemed that urgent. The moment he crossed the finish line, that overwhelming feeling surged through him. His muscles were about to give way. The logistics assistant remarked, "It's strange. Why are there so many urgent needs from this batch of drivers and assistants?" In the VIP section of the Night Voice, Qin Xian stood up with a gloomy expression, ready to leave. For other clubs, finishing second in the provincial qualifiers is a commendable achievement. But for the Yi Ti team, for Night Voice, and for Ayano, the chief driver of Yi Ti, this was a disgrace. Surrounded by fans of Night Voice and Yi Ti, she felt increasingly uncomfortable under their gaze. She didn't want to stay any longer. Mr. Qin, please don't go yet. Hearing this, Qin Xian's sharp gaze fell on a middle-aged man beside her. He was Richard, the newly hired S-Class modifier for the night team. Richard had just returned to the region a week ago. He was a European with gray hair and deep blue eyes. However, those beautiful eyes lacked warmth. In just one morning, Richard had earned the allegiance of the night team's original modifiers, showcasing his impressive skills in modification. Qin Xian disliked being called out like this, but she could begrudgingly give Richard some respect. Staying here would mean enduring more humiliation. Richard, seemingly unfazed by Qin Xian's sharp glare, said calmly, "It's still unclear who the champion of this race is. Although the host has announced it, there is still something very important that hasn't been addressed." During this race, Su Chen and Xingming demonstrated several maneuvers similar to a double boost, which the organizers will definitely investigate. He continued, "You can leave after the investigation results come out." Qin Xian narrowed her eyes at this. "Are you implying illegal modifications?" Richard nodded, "It's quite possible. Su Chen is not a Starshine driver. Starshine drivers have star energy fluctuations. When I passed by one during the entry, I didn't feel anything. Xingming is not a top assistant with special skills, as the pre-race checks have confirmed. The core modifications also couldn't perform maneuvers like the double boost. Excluding all of the above, there is only one possibility: illegal modifications," Richard stated emphatically, clearly confident in his speculation. Qin Xian frowned. "Illegal modifications? Can't they be detected during pre-race checks? After 2 consecutive inspections, even the best concealment would be discovered, right?" Richard shook his finger. "Illegal modifications are indeed completely prohibited in your region, but in some poorly managed areas of the European region, underground races and black market activities still exist. While they dare not use illegal modifications overtly, some drivers and their machines, in order to survive and grasp a chance to get on the track, may resort to illegal modifications under various temptations for profit. To avoid detection, many illegal modifications have hidden capabilities, resembling the core of the modifications almost exactly. These highly advanced illegal modifications also leave no visible traces on the machines, but the pain inflicted on them is substantial, especially after the race. Did you notice? The first thing Su Chen and Xingming did after leaving the track wasn't to receive applause as champions, but they went to the staff passage. What could they be doing in there? That place only has a warehouse, storage room, and restroom. If they went to the restroom, why did they need the driver to accompany them? Can't the support machines handle it? As Richard's tone became more intense, Qin Xian's eyes brightened. What are we waiting for? We need to hurry and bring Su Chun and Xing Ming in. If we give him time to hide the illegal modifications, it will be too late, she said, ready to find the event staff. However, Richard reached out to stop her. Normally, such an action would infuriate Qin Xian, but today, she found Richard somewhat agreeable, merely frowning and looking at him, waiting for an explanation. You are the president of the group. There's no need for you to stand out and expose this matter. It doesn't suit your status. He pointed to the judging panel. Look over there. The judges have already come down. Once Su Chun and Xing Ming emerge, they will conduct inspections on them. Illegal modifications have strong side effects. Even if Su Chun manages to remove the illegal modifications while going to the restroom, it won't matter. Everything will be revealed under the instrument's detection. Qin Xian calmed down amidst Richard's reasonable analysis. She returned to her seat, her expression less gloomy than before. If Su Chun and Xing Ming won the championship through illegal modifications, then Ayano and Yi Ti would have lost without injustice, and the ultimate champion would be Yi Ti. Thinking back, the terrifying effect of the double ejection technique really can't be achieved with normal modifications. Only those illegal modifications, buried in history, could accomplish that. Moreover, they must be of a very extreme nature. Once discovered, Su Chin's career would come to an end. Let's wait and see. Qin Xian gazed at the judges already lined up at the collection platform. Her patience seemed to return. Master, can you come in for a moment? Hearing Xing Ming's voice from inside, Su Chun was taken aback. He had already accompanied Xing Ming here. Going in again felt a bit inappropriate. Xing Ming seemed to feel that her request was a bit excessive, and a soft voice came from behind the partition door. I might need some support later. Otherwise, the impact will be too great, and I might fall. Su Chun replied, from a physics perspective, what Xing Ming said is indeed possible. Can I come in? The voice inside became even weaker. When he opened the door, Su Chun saw the cat girl with a flushed face sitting on the toilet, her eyes misty, and her small hands nervously fiddling with the hem of her clothes. Some beautiful scenery was laid bare, but it wasn't suitable for appreciation at this moment. After all, the racing suit was very tight, and Su Chun didn't want to be in an awkward position when receiving the champion trophy later. What do you need me to do? He looked up at the light above, trying to appear calm. Master, just give me your hand so I can hold on to it, she said. Upon hearing this, Su Chun stretched out his hand. He had no clear line of sight and didn't know where it was going, but he felt something unusually soft. Meow? Master is touching around again, Xing Ming exclaimed. That said, she still hugged Su Chun's arm, using it as one of her supports. 10 minutes later, Su Chun led the blushing Xing Ming out from the staff passage. This new modification core was indeed impressive, a sight to behold. However, powerful things always come with some side effects, which was completely understandable. He tried to clear the images from his mind to avoid awkwardness during the award ceremony, but when he turned his head, he saw a row of judges standing in front of the starting platform. The host, Brother Xiaoyi, and track analyst MacArthur were also present, and everyone's attention was focused on him and Xing Ming. Xing Ming shivered in fear and hid behind Su Chun, trembling. Could it be that her secret was discovered? But after all, Su Chun was the one accompanying her. Do you have any questions? Su Chun felt that the judges had come down specifically for him and Xing Ming. The chief judge, an elderly man with graying hair, stepped forward with a serious expression. Su Chun, Xing Ming, according to Article 113 of the Open Competition Blue Book, any abnormal behavior by participants during the race may be subject to additional checks to ensure the fairness and validity of the results. You employed several unconventional maneuvers similar to a double bounce during the competition, despite the mech girl lacking special skills and the driver not being a Starshine driver. Such operational effects can only be achieved through illegal modifications. I am not saying that what you used was definitely illegal modifications, but as judges, to provide a clear and transparent response to the audience and all participants, we need to conduct a test on you and Xing Ming. If the test results are normal, then you will be crowned champions of this provincial preliminary competition. Upon hearing this, Su Chun understood. It turned out that the nitrous acceleration system was so outrageous that it raised suspicions. This was quite a normal situation. It would be unusual if the race organizers did not accept such scrutiny calmly. Will the check cause any harm to me and Xing Ming? He did not resist this inspection. After all, one has nothing to fear if one is upright. He and Xing Ming had not used any cheating methods, so why should they resist proving themselves? Of course, there will be no harm. The old man smiled and said, the testing equipment is the same as what was used before the competition. Don't worry, our technology is very mature. If you really used illegal modifications, they will definitely be exposed during the inspection. Similarly, if you didn't use any, the results won't be fabricated out of thin air. Brother Xiaoyi also reassured, all testing data will be displayed on the big screen, and all the audience will be witnesses. Facts can eliminate all rumors. Su Chun and Xing Ming exchanged glances and smiled slightly. Let us do it then. He could faintly hear some skeptical voices from the audience. But it didn't matter, let the doubts come stronger. This way, his fame would soar even higher. Thanks to the brothers for their support. One person, one effort. Nobody can take down Xiao Yi. He will keep fighting. Chapter 226, Backstab? Just as the main referee said, the testing equipment was the same as that used before the competition, and it wasn't even new. It was directly moved from the entrance of the venue. Xingming tugged at Su Chen's sleeve, looking a bit flustered. Masta, they won't find out about that, right? About what? Su Chen raised an eyebrow. The little cat girl seemed a bit afraid of the testing equipment. That one. Xingming bit her lip and said hesitantly, there's too much. It will flow out a lot. Cough cough. Su Chen twitched his lips. They are checking for any side effects left by illegal modifications. What you have really doesn't count as a side effect. Really? Xingming lowered her head. Her fingers fidgeting together. But it's just too much. It's quite embarrassing. Don't worry. It won't happen, Su Chen assured repeatedly. If it really were a side effect. What? Xingming blinked her big eyes, asking. I would just take a sip to show that it's safe and harmless. Su Chen said seriously. Xingming's face turned red, and she glared at Su Chen in annoyance, biting her lip without saying anything. Brother Xiaoyi noticed that Su Chen and Xingming were whispering to each other and couldn't help but feel a bit worried. Could it be that Su Chen really used some illegal modifications? Is it too late to talk to the machine girl now? Besides, there's no point in discussing too much with her. Even if she says nothing, the truth will be revealed by the testing equipment. Especially regarding the post-race side effects for the machine girl, this testing equipment, which was developed and popularized by Xingshan last century, will definitely catch everything without missing a thing. Come on, Su Chen and Xingming, go stand in the testing equipment. The main referee opened the hatch of the testing equipment and gestured for Su Chen and Xingming to enter, one on the left and one on the right. If it were illegal modifications, testing the driver would be meaningless. The reason for testing Su Chen was twofold. First, to prevent him from interfering with Xingming's testing. Second, to see if there really was a rare case where Su Chen appeared normal before the competition but unexpectedly awakened during the race to become a star driver. Time passed second by second. Su Chen finished the testing first. The instrument shows that most of Su Chen's indicators are normal, but Mr. Su Chen, your kidney has the referee looking at the data on the panel in confusion. It's the first time he has seen such an impressive kidney. Indeed. There's no other word to describe it. It's impressive. The physiological indicators of this kidney are more than 10 times that of a normal adult male. Even the size is noticeably larger. Is there something wrong with my kidney? Su Chen pretends to look worried. I'm still so young, it can't be. The head referee quickly waved his hand, looking at Su Chen with a hint of envy. Your kidneys are perfectly fine. On the contrary, they are unusually powerful. From a racing perspective, this type of kidney is what every racer dreams of. In terms of life, your future wife will be fortunate. He was already older. And although he had taken good care of himself, he could not compare to the young ones. In terms of marital life, he was already struggling. So he envied Su Chen for having such an impressive kidney. With such a strong kidney, it should be fine to use it for 100 years, right? He wondered if Su Chen's kidney was innate or developed through care. Su Chen smiled casually and said, so my kidney has nothing to do with cheating, right? Of course not. The referee shook his head. This is your personal physical quality. Next, we need to see if there are any side effects on your machine partner. President. You see, Su Chen is not a Starshine driver. In the VIP section of the Knight's Voice, Richard's face showed even more certainty. If he is not a Starshine driver and the machine partner has no special skills, then what could cause that secondary launch? Modified core. Qin Xian interjected, which made Richard a bit tense. Richard was silent for a few seconds and said lightly, impossible. A modified core absolutely cannot achieve functional operations like a secondary launch. The adjustable tail wing modification core is the most creative design I have seen, and a secondary launch completely exceeds the capabilities of a modified core. The purpose of the modified core is to enhance the performance of the machine partner, and this has been the case for the past century. A secondary launch would give a machine partner an extra function, even a skill, which can only be achieved through illegal modification. Seeing Richard's confidence, Qin Xian felt a bit more at ease. She looked at Su Chen, who was quietly waiting in front of the collection platform, and couldn't he help but feel some regret. Su Chen could be considered a genius in modification and driving. If he continued to develop like this, there might come a day when he could compete with her. It's just a pity that he gained fame too young and seemed to be influenced by someone, daring to touch illegal modifications. Desiring victory is one thing, but if he engages in illegal modifications, then Su Chen's career would be over. In the Hua Zone, using illegal modifications that lead to severe damage to the machine partner could result in life imprisonment or even the death penalty. Qin Xian pondered. It would be too regrettable if someone with Su Chen's talent were sentenced to life imprisonment or death. If such a severe punishment were to be enforced, she would find a way to rescue Su Chen, and he would surely be grateful and obediently work for the Knight's Voice group. Su Chen, who was quietly waiting in front of the detector, had no idea that Chin Xin had already entered a state of delusion. Otherwise, he would surely have laughed out loud. A modifier hurried over to Richard and whispered a few words. Richard's expression immediately changed. What did you say? The modification core used by Su Che and Feng, he was made by that old guy James? Chin Xin, who was nearby, also heard it and couldn't help but snort. She knew this news was much faster than Richard's. This S-class modifier was not well informed at all. The next moment, Richard exclaimed, "The lift wing modification core made by James can be used 1,000 times. This is impossible. I don't believe it." The modifier was about to explain when he saw Chin Xin, who had been calm, suddenly slam her hand on the armrest. A lift wing modification core that could be used 1,000 times? James has betrayed me. Chin Xin trembled with anger. James providing lift wing modification cores to other club drivers had already made her furious. However, what James left for the Voice of the Night group was a lift wing modification core that couldn't be used stably in competitions. And for others, it was a lift wing modification core with a lifespan of over 1,000 uses. Why is that fair? No wonder in the latter half of the competition, Feng He's lift wing was always activated. It turned out that James had innovated the technology. That ungrateful wretch. Chin Xin glared at Su Che and Feng He by the starting platform, gritting her teeth in hatred, as if she could see James hiding behind them. Chin Xin felt it was necessary to confront James for an explanation. If James hadn't held back anything when leaving the Voice of the Night, she wouldn't be so angry. Now, James's actions were like shitting on her head. But after thinking it over, it seemed unreasonable to hold James accountable. He had no ties to the Voice of the Night anymore. What would be the point of confronting him? James, do you really think the Voice of the Night can't operate without you? You overestimate yourself. Chin Xin muttered to herself, then turned to the equally shocked Richard and said, Richard, I give you a month. I want you to create a lift wing modification core that can be used 2,000, no, 5,000 times. Didn't you say you're stronger than James? Show me. 1 month. 5,000 times. Richard pointed at himself in disbelief. Me? What? Can't you do it? Miss Chin. Creating a modification core isn't something you can just research whenever you want. It requires core technology, and sometimes that technology comes from a sudden flash of inspiration. If you miss that opportunity, you might never break through that core technology. I don't care. Chin Xin ignored Richard's explanation and insisted on expressing her demand. I want a lift wing modification core that can be used 10,000 times. Miss Chin. I want 20,000 times. Richard, damn. He finally realizes why that old fox James chose to resign from such a good job. Who can stand this? Chin Xin is like an uncommunicative deity on the client's side, only expressing demands without any practical considerations. Talking to her is like playing music to a cow. I will do my best. Richard took a step back and took a deep breath, but I can't guarantee the timing. Chin Xin frowned, about to say something. Suddenly, a wave of discussion erupted from the audience. She instinctively looked up and found that the data for Star Dream had already been displayed on the big screen. Driver, Su Chun, Mecha's physical condition, good. Mecha's emotional state, happy. Mecha's health status, healthy. Special skills, none. Frequency, valuation 50. Other states, increased displacement, decreased body temperature. Besides that, there was the performance panel of Star Dream. However, due to privacy concerns regarding the contestants and the mechas, this panel was entirely censored and not disclosed to the public. Although the performance of Star Dream was not a secret to the intelligence organizations of various clubs. Upon seeing Star Dream's inspection report, everyone was dumbfounded. Gasps erupted from the audience. Wow, a frequency of 50? This must be a joke. Is the machine malfunctioning? Is this the basic frequency that a driver and mecha can achieve? There really is someone with such a high frequency with their mecha. Didn't you all forget? The champion of last year's world competition had a frequency of 53, and now he's living a happy life in seclusion with his mecha on Star God Island. That was the world champion. Su Chun and Star Dream are only participating in provincial qualifiers. How can they be compared? A higher basic frequency indicates a stronger emotional connection and tacit understanding between the driver and the mecha, besides the mecha's performance. Improving the basic frequency is also a goal for the drivers, who wouldn't want their mecha to be affectionate towards them. However, improving the basic frequency is difficult. What the mecha desires is vastly different from normal human women, and simply throwing money or sweet talk has no effect. At this moment, seeing Su Chun and Star Dream's high frequency of 50, many drivers in the audience felt it was unbelievable and unrealistic. Then came envy and jealousy. Some wondered if Su Chun had some secret trick. Others were already preparing gifts to visit and seek advice. The data displayed by the testing device showed that all the basic items were normal, as expected. The other states were the easiest to identify if any illegal modifications had been made. However, there were two puzzling items: increased displacement and decreased body temperature. Could these be considered side effects of illegal modifications? That doesn't seem quite right. The judges exchanged glances, ultimately looking at the head judge. One of them hesitantly asked, with your experience, do these two count as side effects of illegal modifications? The head judge twitched his mouth. Increased displacement and decreased body temperature. What kind of side effects are those? But under normal circumstances, these two special conditions shouldn't appear on the Mecha either. It seems that Su-chan must have done something to Xingming, and these two special states are definitely related to the secondary launch. What exactly is it? He is indeed knowledgeable, but this is the first time he has encountered such a situation. Qin, you saw it, right? Richard's tone was somewhat forced. Su-chan really has issues. A normal machine girl wouldn't exhibit these special states. While this special state seems fine, in reality, what? There was no warmth in Qin Xian's voice. In reality, Richard's tone weakened by 3 points, and while there might not be any problems, something still feels off. Su-chan needs to provide a reasonable explanation. Qin Xian didn't speak, his expression shifting between uncertainty and concern. After a while, the detection device activated. Xingming peeked out from inside. She looked somewhat guilty at the judges and then glanced at Su-chan's face, her pretty face filled with worry and confusion. The next moment, she saw an old man with a white beard approach her, muttering, Miss Xingming, do you feel unwell anywhere? And no, Xingming took a step back and hid behind Su-chan. Only her little head peeking out, looking vigilant. Don't come any closer. You're making me feel uncomfortable. The chief judge felt a bit awkward. He observed that Xingming seemed normal in every way. Her speech, demeanor, and actions were all perfectly fine. She didn't resemble those machine girls who had been illegally modified, who looked haggard and in pain. This made things a bit tricky. He had thought his extensive knowledge could explain everything. But today he couldn't discern the reasons behind Su-chan and Xingming's secondary launch at all. Feeling the gazes gathering around him, he felt a bit embarrassed. Judge, it's evident that my machine girl hasn't been illegally modified, so can we announce the champion now? Su-chan gently patted Xingming's head with one hand, and the little girl, like a real cat, squinted her eyes and nuzzled against his hand with a blissful expression. A machine girl burdened with illegal modifications would never show such happiness. Moreover, even if a modified machine girl shared the same goal as the driver, the synchronization could never reach a height of 50. Because from the moment illegal modifications were made, it revealed the driver's incompetence and distorted values. How could a machine girl acknowledge such a driver? Mr. Su-chan. The head coach looked at this driver who was even younger than his grandson, his tone carrying a newfound respect. He awkwardly clasped his hands together. I realize my knowledge is limited. May I ask how you and your machine girl achieved the secondary launch? Su-chan and Xingming surely had no issues. However, the audience needed an answer. Since he couldn't figure out the problem, he could only humbly seek advice. Why not ask this earlier? Su-chan chuckled, wondering why they went around in circles. It's actually quite simple. Xingming possesses a brand new modification core equipped with the latest technology system. The master who gave me this modification core referred to it as. He paused. A smirk on his lips, nitrogen acceleration. The moment those 4 words fell, the entire venue fell silent. Brothers, keep generating power. I need to carve out a bloody path. Chapter 228. Not an unjust loss. Nitrogen acceleration? I completely don't understand, but it sounds advanced. The main referee felt like he needed to grow another brain. He desperately needed to absorb new knowledge, and his gaze towards Su-chan was filled with sincerity. You know about oxygen and nitrogen, right? Su-chan said calmly. Several referees nodded, and Brother Roast Goose and MacArthur naturally knew this from their middle school chemistry knowledge. Oxygen aids combustion and increases efficiency, while nitrogen cools down, allowing the engine's performance to be fully unleashed. As Su-chan spoke, he brought his hands together and gently clapped, combining these two technologies and making slight adjustments. The core for nitrogen acceleration modification is created. Everyone. Su-chan spoke as if it were as simple as eating and drinking, but if it were really that simple, it would be unbelievable. Impossible. Richard squeezed through the crowd to the starting platform, his expression dark. There's no way such a modification core, as you described, could exist. He noticed that things were going awry and hurried down to check the situation. If he didn't act now, the referee would announce Su-chan and Xingming's results as valid. And what would that mean for the guarantee he had given Qin Xian? He was an S-level modification master. As long as he presented his credentials, everyone would give him some respect. Richard stood firmly in front of Su-chan, his eyes scrutinizing. Mr. Su, the modification core you mentioned cannot exist. For a century, the characteristic of modification cores has been to enhance the performance of the machine girls, not to grant them certain skills. Although I don't know why your machine girl doesn't seem to have severe side effects, illegal modifications are still illegal. Don't try to cover it up, just admit it. Considering you haven't caused severe harm to the machine girl, the legal consequences for you might be somewhat mitigated. Su-chan. He looked at the suddenly appearing gray-haired, blue-eyed European guy with confusion. He completely didn't remember seeing this person before. Where did he come from? What was the purpose of suddenly coming out to refute? Who are you? Suchin pondered before speaking. Who? Richard's mouth twitched, and he took a deep breath to calm his anger. I am an S-level modification master. Formerly the deputy chief of the European Region S Lionheart Modification Team. Here S my modification engineer certificate. He took out a small red book with gold lettering, showing it to Suchun and the surrounding referees. Lionheart Modification Team? Brother Roast Goose turned to MacArthur beside him and asked, I've never heard of it, have you? He didn't lower his voice, and Richard felt darkness descend again upon hearing this. MacArthur looked at Brother Roast Goose in disbelief and whispered, This is one of the top modification teams in the European region, currently. They are serving the top racing group of the European region's ace sword. If he really worked as a deputy chief in this modification team, his skills should be decent. Oh, Brother Roast Goose shook his head, then asked a very pointed question. So why did he resign from Lionheart? Was it because he couldn't continue? Shut up. Richard couldn't hold back any longer and said with a grim face, That was my voluntary resignation. I believe the night team can offer me better treatment. There's a saying in our region, a good bird chooses its tree to perch on. Since the night team is better, why should I stay with the Lionheart? MacArthur cast a faint glance at Richard. Being from the European region himself, he was somewhat aware of the rumors circulating there. It was said that Richard had not left Lionheart by choice, but had actually been dismissed, apparently for ruining a chief driver-S machine. Unexpectedly, he had now become the chief modifier at Knight's Voice. This made it seem like Knight's Voice was indeed desperate, taking someone with such a tarnished record. However, he didn't want to confront Richard directly. Past experiences had taught him that any just action must be based on background and strength. Otherwise, only one would suffer. Mr. Richard, the main judge said with a slight frown, weighing his words, whether a machine has been illegally modified should be determined by instrument testing results. We have our own set of standards here. Although Mr. Su's machine has a special status, that alone cannot be used as grounds to determine illegal modification. I don't know how you judge in your region, but in our area, Mr. Su has not used illegal modifications. I am an S-class modifier, Richard said proudly, lifting his chin. My judgment is no less authoritative than yours. As a modifier, I also bear the responsibility of identifying illegal modifications. I vouch with my reputation that Su Chun and Xingming are illegally modified. There's absolutely no other possibility. You vouch with your reputation? Before Richard could finish, an elderly voice emerged from the crowd. Dressed in a tailored suit, wearing a top hat and holding a cane, James, looking like a classic gentleman, stepped forward. Are you sure you can vouch with your reputation? James scoffed and was about to continue his tirade against Richard when he noticed Su Chen pointing at him. The core modification is given to me by Master James, Su Chen said. Taking out the nitrogen acceleration core, he named Juicy and Tender from Xingming. Under the lights of the arena, the acceleration core emitted a soft golden glow, its noble brilliance making the onlookers envious. A golden modification core. My goodness. A participant in the provincial qualifiers is using a golden modification core? Su Chun is really generous. No wonder a machine like Xingming can be so powerful. Now I finally understand how the 50 frequency was achieved. If I were his machine, my frequency would be high too. Damn it. It's not unfair to lose. Yu Ming stared at the golden modification core in Su Chen's hand, feeling dizzy. Previously, he and Chasing Shadow could easily suppress Su Chun, but at some point, whether Su Chun was piloting Xingming or Queen, they found it hard to compete. Now the reason was clear, with an S-class modifier like James backing him, and the golden modification core, what else was there to say? If you can't compete, then just admit it. The golden modification core? You made it? Richard stared intensely at James. They had known each other for a long time, and their relationship was not very pleasant. After all, as S-level modification masters, it was inevitable that they would compete against each other. The standard for becoming an S-level modification master is the ability to create a golden modification core. However, Richard couldn't even remember the last time he created a golden modification core. It was too long ago. For many S-level modification masters, the golden modification core made during their promotion was likely the highest achievement of their lives. Faced with Richard's questioning and piercing gaze, James mechanically glanced at Su Chun. He understood the meaning in Su Chen's eyes, and a wild smile gradually appeared on his aging face. Yes, didn't expect that, did you, old fool Richard? This golden modification core was made by me, while you, old fool, have never made a second modification core in your life. Do you still have the nerve to question me? Do you understand what you're questioning? Chapter 229. Overcoming doubt. Richard's face darkened, showing signs of embarrassment. After all, the most frustrating thing for a peer is when another peer is stronger than oneself. He had only created one golden quality modification core, while James had already made 3 golden cores, including this one. In the circle of S-level modification masters, everyone is a master, and seniority is determined by the number of golden quality modification cores produced. This also sets their market value. Each golden quality modification core made doubles their worth. Take the Voice of Night as an example. Sheen Xian's salary was not as high as James' previous salary, but it wasn't far off. Mainly because the night team needed an S-level modification master to lead. Richard couldn't understand it. They were all peers who became S-level modification masters around the same time. Why had James unknowingly become so much stronger than him? The skill and understanding required to create one golden quality modification core versus 3 are undoubtedly different. The latter will have more opportunities to produce golden quality modification cores in the future, but the former may not. Even if this is the golden quality modification core you made, it can't possibly have the functions this kid claims, like a nitrogen acceleration system. Richard gritted his teeth. He didn't believe it. He couldn't accept that a century-old concept could be easily broken, especially by an old rival. I can guarantee it with my reputation, James said, stepping closer to Su Chun. Looking at him with a hopeful and flattering expression, although his back was to the others, so no one saw his expression. Su Chun found it amusing but maintained a stern face as he handed the golden modification core to James. Upon receiving the golden modification core, James looked like a child who had just received a long-awaited toy, his eyes sparkling and his fingers trembling. However, when he turned around to face Richard, he reverted to that arrogant and disdainful expression. James, why is your hand shaking? Richard raised an eyebrow. I'm old, and you're shaking even more, James replied cautiously, gripping the golden modified core. Casting a disdainful glance at Richard while repeating his earlier words, I can guarantee with my credibility that this modified core has the functions described by Su Chun. Starlight energy slowly enveloped the golden core, and James diligently analyzed the secrets within. Even though he had prepared himself mentally, he couldn't help but feel a flash of shock and fervor in his eyes. But soon, those emotions were reined in deep within. Acting. He must not mess it up. Otherwise, he would never have the chance to get his hands on such an impressive modified core again. Just as Su Chun had said, this modified core completely broke the traditional mechanism of enhancing only the performance of the machine girls, achieving a breakthrough in functionality. James shook his head and said boastfully, the perfect utilization of oxygen and nitrogen enhances combustion efficiency to provide stronger power, lowers engine temperature, and ensures the endurance and stability of the machine girls. The combination of both yields this exquisitely designed, unprecedented, and unparalleled top-tier golden quality modified core. With the enhancement of combustion efficiency, the displacement naturally increased. This was not a legal modification, but rather a great revolution in modified cores. Richard raised an eyebrow, looking at James. He felt that James's tone was very strange. Did James really make this modified core? Just as he was about to speak, he met James's aggressive gaze. You don't believe me? Richard instinctively nodded. I can brag too. James turned to Brother Roasted Goose. Get the instruments ready. Today I'm going to show Richard, this old fool, how ignorant he is. Before analyzing this modified core, James was still a bit uncertain. After the analysis, he felt completely confident and wished he could stomp Richard down on the ground. You can definitely show me this modified core. Richard, enraged by the humiliation in James's words, turned red, speaking as if he was grinding his teeth. Heh, your hands are dirty. James held the modified core like a treasure. It was impossible to give it to Richard. If Richard discovered that this modified core was not made by him, it would be disastrous. At that point, he would be embarrassed alongside Richard. The instruments were quickly brought up. After testing, they displayed the luxurious performance of this golden quality modified core. Positive effects, speed 10, burst 10, negative effects, stability 5, impact resistance 10, engine blowout probability 1. As for the effects of the nitrogen acceleration system, the instruments could not fully detect it, but provided a very general summary. This modified core can utilize oxygen and nitrogen to achieve a short-term burst acceleration state. The specific reason is unknown. The truth was revealed. There was no illegal modification. Everything was the effect brought by this golden quality modified core. The audience erupted in astonishment. Both ordinary spectators and drivers found it hard to believe. The modifiers who came to watch the match had expressions as if they were dreaming. Isn't this modification core too excessive? What is the difference between this and giving a machine girl special skills? This completely changes the structure of the competition. Having this modification core and not having it is like two different machine girls. Does anyone know where to buy this thing? It's laughable. As if you could afford it. Is it really the effect brought by the modification core? Richard, looking at the golden quality modification core on the instrument, turned pale. His eyes filled with disbelief. In the next second, he suddenly reached out to grab the modification core. However, James was faster and snatched it away in the blink of an eye. Aren't your fingers supposed to be trembling with age? Richard shouted in frustration. James casually replied, my fingers may tremble, but I'm still strong. He stuffed the golden modification core into his bag, walked up to the main referee and the Roasted Goose brother with his hands behind his back. Can we announce the champions, Su Chun and Xingming, now? Oh, the main referee finally reacted, opened the microphone, and announced loudly. The champions of this provincial preliminary competition are Su Chun and Xingming. After a fair assessment by the judges, the results of Su Chun and Xing Ming are valid. Humph, that is more like it. James gave the main referee a look that said he was quite perceptive. Then, he clicked his tongue at the pale-faced Richard and, with his hands behind his back, squeezed through the enthusiastic crowd to leave. He was older now, and with the aura of an S-level modifier. Those reporters and club agents actually didn't dare to get too close to him. They were afraid of injuring this old man, which would be a disaster. Xing Ming wrinkled her little nose and said pitifully, "The modification